This is the Select Board meeting of Monday, January 13th, 2025, and we're in the Select Board chamber, and the time is currently 6:31. I'd like to remind you all that this meeting is being recorded by MCM, and I'd like to make a motion to open this meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and duly second. A roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Unanimous vote to open the Select Board meeting for Monday, January 13, 2025.
And I'd like to also let everybody know that Mr. Darcy is not here. So obviously, there's just the two of us tonight. So if there is a vote with one negative and one positive, the negative rules. Okay, I'd like you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I didn't prepare any chair comments for this evening, but I'd just like to just briefly express how important it is that this board remains in a position where we all can communicate with each other. So going forward, I'd like to maybe have us reintroduce some of the Roberts rules that we have that are part of how we run our meetings so that the public and the board is refamiliarized with it as well. But the last couple of weeks have been tough on California. My family has been worked up about it as well, and I just saw my daughter, and she was sharing how she has kind of come into contact with another person out in California, and they're similar sizes, and they're doing all this type of stuff. So I'd like to encourage all of us to keep in mind how lucky we are here, and if there is any opportunity to help, to make sure that you're aware of the scams that are out there and to use the appropriate ways that we all like to help. So, but other than that, I think this evening will be fairly short, although this is one of the most important meetings that we have of the year, as Michael, our town administrator, will be sharing with us his report for the state of the town. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our town administrator for his report.
The town administrator report, I'll do.
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. Weekly, I had my weekly call on the WATD to discuss current events and to review the upcoming Select Board agenda. Hosted the weekly DPW meeting with John Patterson, our treasurer collector, and our town accountant to discuss several issues regarding pest control, additional security cameras, leaking windows, and a vacant driver position, and the need for the chipper truck's floor to be replaced. Bi-weekly meeting with Chief LaSalva regarding the fire department budget, CBA negotiations, and personnel issues. Hosted a meeting with Andrew Stewart, our building commissioner, to go over a few personnel issues and to discuss a few challenging products that may need involvement of town council. Participated in a meeting with Craig Hannafin, Conservation Commission Chair Mike Seal, Conservation Administrator, Conservation Chair Craig Hannafin, Mike Seal is the Conservation Administrator, and Liz Hinju, the Assistant, and Bill Finn, the Consultant, to review the ongoing Veterans Park project that's underway, discuss the contingency budget for a Veterans Park project to fill the gap of losing the MVP grant of $350,000. Weekly meeting with Fred Russell, our Facility Director, to review a number of ongoing town projects, including the fire headquarters, men and women's bathroom showers and locker rooms, school projects, the Daniel Webster project regarding ventilation in the basement and wood repairs because of a woodpecker, repairs to the recreation building, including repairs to outside wood trim caused by another woodpecker, and update on town hall project and new doors. Participated in a conference call with John Clifford, our labor council, Bob Galvin, our town council, to deal with a couple of personnel issues. Participated in the select board, special select board meeting to approve the fire chief's contract, January 3rd, 2025. Swore in the new fire chief, Michael LaSalva, at a swearing-in ceremony at the Daniel Webster House on January 30th, 2025. Fire chief then swore in his new deputy fire chief, Patrick Smith, the new captain, Michael Marshall, and two new lieutenants, Ron Allard and Dana Unanks. Participated in the weekly DPW meeting with Sean Patterson, Clint Stetson, Sharon Studley, Sean Strobel, and Meg LeMay to discuss fuel consumption, vehicle policy usage, enterprise fund budgets, and in particular, solid waste budget will need an infusion of additional funds at the Springtown meeting. We also discussed quarterly billing with the hope to get that implemented at the start of the new fiscal year. This will go a long way to help our ratepayers who have sewer bills and water bills. Hosted a meeting with Sean Patterson, our DPW superintendent, Fred Russell, our facility director, regarding the house owned by the DPW that would need to be demolished on Union Street. The insurance company will be canceling the insurance because it is vacant and in poor condition. Hosted a meeting with Bert O'Donnell and Tom Whelan from the Revolutionary Committee regarding the procurement process for the purchasing of the Revolutionary Granite Memorial Stone Monument that will be inscribed with the names of those Marshfield residents that fought in the Revolution. The monument will be located on the town green. Coordinated a meeting with Enterprise Fleet Management to review this as an option that could save the town money and improve our fleet. A number of our departments participated, including police and DPW. Hosted a meeting with the resident Bill Early, Town Council, North South River Watershed Association, and Joe Gould from the Department of Fish and Game, Ecological Restoration Department, to discuss the removal of a dam up on Chandler Pond. State would like to move the project design forward by June 30th. Potential public meeting in May with neighbors and stakeholders. Participated and hosted fire negotiations with the fire union. No settlement as of yet. Participated in the CPC meeting regarding the joint application filed by Sean Patterson and myself for $750,000 to make the necessary ADA improvements at school playgrounds and other parks in town. Participated in an interview with WATD regarding the SJC decision on MBTA zoning. Hosted the FY26 budget meeting with Sean Strobel, our treasurer, and Meg LeMay, our town accountant, with our fire chief, DPW superintendent Sean Patterson, Dr. Patrick Sullivan, superintendent of schools, and Tom Miller, the assistant superintendent for business of the schools, and Chief Tavares to review their FY26 budget numbers. Hosted a discussion with Fred Russell, our facility director, Matt Parent, our energy consultant, to discuss our PV projects that include the town landfill and the dog park. Meeting with Rick Smith, the chair of the advisory board, to discuss the FY26 budget rollout and the meeting schedule to review the individual department budgets. And finally, participate in an interview with WBUR regarding the SJC decision on MBTA zoning, and that is my town administrator report.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to remind everybody that there will be no executive session this evening. And I understand, sir, are you taping this meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, just asking the question. Thank you. So there is also no public comments this evening. No one has signed up, so we will move right into our appointments, which begin at 6:35, and the time is currently 6:39. So Brant Rock Ocean Cafe, Inc., which is DBA Ocean Street, is a change of a DBA. So please approach us and introduce yourselves for the record, and we'll get to it just a second here.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name's Chuck Hitchcock, and my partner Jeremy Scanlon here.
Okay. So I'm going to just go through your application, and then perhaps you can add to any of the spots that I'm...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all righty. So I understand this is, we have an application for an amendment, which is a change of business entity, and it's a change of a DBA. And the entity name is Brant Rock Ocean Cafe, Inc., Marshfield, Mass. ABCC license number is 08425 RS 0664. And this is a requested DBA name change from Haddad's Ocean Cafe to 291 Ocean Street. No other changes to the business structure or partnership, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So we have the filing fee of $200, and as I just shared, the license number for the business name. And this was received here at 12:20 on December 17th. We have an entity vote. The Board of Directors of LLC Managers of Brant Rock Ocean Cafe, Inc. duly voted to apply to the Licensing Authority of Marshfield, Mass., Commonwealth of Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission on on December 9th, 2024. And the transaction was for a change of the DBA. And Jeremy Scanlon was the, okay. Would you just, your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Jeremy Scanlon. My address is 111 Pleasant Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you. So we have the business certificate. Certificate was with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Marshfield, and in conformity with the provisions of Chapter 110, Section 5 of the General Laws as amended, the undersigned Brant Rock Ocean Cafe, Inc. hereby declares that a business under the title of 291 Ocean Street is conducted at 291 Ocean Street, Marshfield, Mass. And this is a typical document. And that was signed by Charles Hitchcock. And signed in by our town clerk. So the applicant's statement, Jeremy Scanlon is the partner and corporate principal, correct me if I'm wrong, for Brant Rock Ocean Cafe. Is that correct? Okay. We have the application contact as your attorney, Louis DeCayanis. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I probably just ruined that name, but I apologize for that.
Quite all right.
So that's pretty much what we have in our packet. So can you just explain how you're doing and the reason for this name change?
The reason for the name change is that we had come in hoping that we were able to keep the name, keep the brand. Unfortunately, we are seriously limited during the due diligence process on how much we can speak to the general public. We didn't know what we didn't know. Turns out that a lot of the feedback that we were given when we were finally able to speak to patrons in the area, that they believed that it was time for a true change away from that brand. This is going to be allow us to really have more of a conducive change from not just the summer brand that Hat Ads was specifically so well known for, but a year-round brand.
Okay.
And in turn, we get to brand the specific areas of the room, to have a little bit of a fine dining, nicer area in the dining room, and then still a bar area. It gives us some flexibility.
Okay. So do you mind me asking, are there any changes in the overall operation of the business? As far as right now, for example, I know upstairs you have a pretty decent size and well-liked room for entertaining and a hall, I'm going to call it.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
The short answer to that question is no, absolutely not.
okay, all right. So I think I've asked the questions that I need to ask. I'll ask my select board member, Eric Kelly, if he has any questions for it.
One of the questions I'm going to ask in regards to why the name change is I'm surprised that you're telling me that the patrons there are suggested it to you. Did I hear that correctly?
It's correct.
Is there I don't know, how can I say this? Is it just something to get away from the previous owner's name and just start anew, or is it any specific reason why they were looking for, suggested a name change?
I think that as we started to try to put our our take on the restaurant and make our little changes on the menu and on these different things, a lot of the reaction to that was, that's not what we expect when we walk in this building. And so it was a bit like, okay, well, you know, it's new ownership and it still had ads, but it's new ownership, so there'll be a couple things changing. And I think the reaction to that was generally, well, if you're not going to be hat ads, then don't be hat ads. So I think that was kind of the general
Really?
sentiment.
Oh, no. I guess it's all the more, I guess it's a pretty straightforward answer in regards to
yeah.
changing the name of the building. The only thing I have a question on here in the documents is, personally appear before me the above-named Charles Hitchcock, who reside at 291 Ocean Street. So 291 Ocean Street is the business, correct?
That's correct. My home address is 53 Granite Ave, Boston, Massachusetts.
So do we need to change that? It's under the Commonwealth of Massachusetts page.
Yeah, I saw that, December 16th. They should probably I would recommend they do a new one and just send it to us.
So we just
So that we have
add it to
correct-
the,
Yeah.
to the vote there and.
Yes.
All right. I think, aside from that,
Which page are you referring to?
right here.
Sorry. Okay, thanks.
Just so that I'm aware, is that the business certificate for 291? Okay. So I can,
I think you just have to change, it says who resides, so the whole thing is that you're not residing at the
Understood.
business location, right?
So this was
Correct.
the oath, but this was your oath when you were being sworn in by the town clerk for this particular certificate.
okay.
So I'm
So I
guessing
should
she had
come
your
to town
license.
hall.
I would have it. We have town council here, is that correct? I think I saw him.
Bob's right here, yeah.
Bob, would you mind answering this question for us and introducing yourself for the record? So this is what we're looking at. If I need to add it to the motion or,
So the question was, can they keep it
yeah. does it- is
residency
this-
address at 291?
Yeah, that's the location of the business and it's not where he,
I think they could
Quote-unquote
update it to
resides.
make it accurate if they want.
okay.
I'd prefer that they line through this and then write the correct information in.
Okay, thank you.
Alright.
So there's your answer.
Understood.
Okay, very good.
So what I will do is I'll come to City Hall, redo that file, and then file it with the board upstairs.
Yeah, and we'll just make this motion conditional on you making that editorial change to this
Understood.
particular document, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Did you say this was part of some kind of oath they took or something like that?
Well, it's the town of Marshfield's provisions, chapter 1 and 10, section 5 of the general laws.
So,
So it's
did they do
just that
something with
they're-
the Reese previously?
Yeah, well, this,
I'm just wondering if they have to redo anything they did at the town clerk's office, I mean,
Well,
got
you-
this paperwork.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
all that needs to be changed is this, and that's.
So you
that's
can
not what-
just strike
okay,
it
all
out.
right.
write your address, your correct domicile address, and then she'll stamp you again. That's how
Yes, ma'am.
I've been explained. Okay. So, is there anything else, Michael, you want to add to
I
this?
think that's good, yeah.
We got it covered?
And I would just add at the end of the motion, that they're gonna redo,
Conditional on?
correct.
The business just on correcting the business certificate to reflect
The gentleman's address.
the
Mr. Hitchcock's address.
business owner's address.
Yeah. Which he stated publicly already.
Yep.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions or comments, Eric?
No, that's it,
I'm
thank you.
Okay as well. So I'd like to make a motion for the board to move to approve the Brant Rock Ocean Cafe, Inc., DBA name change from Haddad's Ocean Cafe to 291 Ocean Street, Jeremy Scanlon, manager of record, conditional on correcting the certificate, the business certificate with the corrected business owner's address. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Unanimous vote to approve.
Okay. Thank you, good luck.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Okay.
Hey, gentlemen.
Okay. So our next appointment is 6:45, and the time is currently, oops, 6:51. So, and this is Rachel Ferdinand, and this has to do with our presentation for the Marshfield Community Electricity Program. Now, do we have,
Rachel's
get
up.
that. Could you
Rachel's
try
up
again?
on that.
what was that? I'm on Do Not Disturb.
Rachel's up on our screen.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hi, Rachel, can you hear my voice? Rachel, can you unmute yourself? IT?
Yes, I can. Sorry. Let me pull. My screen is just being a little wonky.
Okay, well, we see your R, so we've got something there.
Okay. Can you guys see me now?
We can see you. Can you hear my voice okay?
Yes, I can hear everybody perfectly.
Okay, excellent. So you're here for a 6:45 appointment, and this is Rachel Ferdinand, Good Energy, and the presentation on Marshfield Community Electricity Renewed Program Prices and contract for December 2024 to through December 2027. So I'd like to welcome you to this meeting and look forward to hearing what you have to say. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm also joined by my colleague, Courtney Van Huffel, who is actually the program manager for the Marshfield Community Electricity Program. So she is here tonight as well. Courtney, if you just want to give everybody a wave, you can introduce yourself as well.
Courtney, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you. So which of the two of you will take this meeting?
I'll do the presentation. It's just a very quick presentation, basic.
Rachel, we can't hear your voice, so if you would hold off for a second.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, and we can see your, first slide in front of our board.
Perfect. This will be a very quick presentation. It's really just to go over the renewal of the program that we just went through, including updating the rates. So this is just a quick overview of where we're at with the program right now. You can see that initial contract that ended in December. The pricing that you see there is for the standard product, which is what the vast majority Marshfield residents are in. So that does have an extra 10% renewable electricity included. And the supplier for the program during that initial contract was Direct Energy. And then starting in December with the renewal, we are staying with the same supplier. So it's still Direct Energy, but you can see there that standard rate did drop 2 cents to that 14-cent rate while still including that additional 10% renewable electricity. And these are all of the renewed products. So again, those prices that we just saw were for the standard product, but there are 3 options in the Marshfield program. So just to refresh you, we have the basic product, and that is going to be the cheapest option. It does not have any additional renewable energy. And then the standard, which we just discussed, has that additional 10%. That's the one, again, most Marshfield residents are in. But there's also the plus option. That's a 15-cent rate now, and that does come from 100% renewable electricity. So the good thing about the renewal, and especially since you guys stayed with the same supplier, is that residents didn't have to do anything to stay in the program and stay with the product that they were already in. They did just automatically receive that new pricing. So there was no action that needed to be taken. But before this new pricing did go into effect, all current participants did receive a letter from Direct Energy explaining, these 3 products as well as the transition and, explaining the term, and basically just that they didn't have to do anything, but here's the new pricing if they wanted to change anything about their participation. And so this is the messaging that we really focused on for the renewal, really those voluntary renewables, especially since we have that extra 10% in the standard product. It really does have a great impact when you look at the aggregate impact of all of Marshfield's residents. We did see prices are decreasing. Again, it started at that 16-cent rate for the standard. It is now 14-cent rate, which is really exciting. And those prices are locked in for 3 years, so through December 2027. And then looking at just the success over the first initial term of the program, there was amazing savings. You actually had over $1 million when you're comparing it to Eversource Basic Service. There was over $1 million saved for all participants, including residents and local businesses, as well as with that extra 10% being able to avoid 3 million pounds of carbon dioxide. And so that's really just where we're at this point. The renewal went into effect starting in December, so that new pricing is now officially in effect. Marshfield residents, the bills that they're receiving this month in January, it will show that new pricing. We are getting some data back from Direct, exactly all the numbers on the transition and really what participation is looking like right now. We're not expecting to see any drop. Most of the times, residents just are happy to see the new pricing dropping, but we'll be able to get you guys some of those numbers once we get that back from Direct. But as it stands, residents will start seeing that new pricing on the bills that they received this month. The transition went rather seamlessly, which is always exciting. Direct is continuing to serve you guys, and these prices, again, are locked until December 2027.
Okay, does this conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. So can you just share with the board and the public when Marshfield began this community process with Direct? I believe it was 2 years
Yes.
ago? Yeah.
Yep, so March 2023 is when you guys started your program with Direct. So I think you guys bid early in February of 2023. At that point, you chose the pricing and Direct was chosen as the supplier. So you've been with Direct for coming up on 2 years.
Okay.
So.
All right. Disclosure, I took advantage of this for my family, and it's worked out well. We have had a few issues with communication and things like that, but I think those were worked out for the most part. Correct, Michael?
Yes.
So can you just give us an explanation? I mean, we all were so nervous about going into this season with the cold weather and whatnot, and I know this is based on supply. So can you just explain to the board and the public why the rates have come down, where we're only concentrating on supply at this point?
Yeah, so when you guys originally launched the program and when you were bidding for that supply, the energy market was just in a different place. The conflict that was happening overseas in Ukraine and Russia, that affected the energy prices. That was reflected in that initial bid and that initial pricing for the program. Whereas when you guys were bidding last year, around the same time in March, the energy market was just in a different place. And so what's great about this program as compared to basic service is that the supplier is able to procure a little bit more savvily. So they can bid on different days of the year. Basic service supply can only be bid on 2 days every year. So that is why we see these prices coming down. The energy market is just in a better place, and our suppliers are able to employ better bidding tactics.
Okay. Can you answer the question, or perhaps our town administrator? So this was 2 years ago we started, and now this is a 3-year contract. This board does not vote on this at this point. But, so where is the time frame for the town of Marshfield waiting another 3 years to lock in on hopefully better rates?
Sorry, could you,
So
The
you explained that this will go on for 3 years, correct? That these
Yes.
rates are, so in 3 years, I'm hoping you'll come in front of this board at that time, and you'll have even an improvement on these rates. Is that part of the contract? And perhaps our town administrator can answer this question if you don't have the answer.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
yes, so, just to bring full speed, so this actually began before COVID.
Right.
So it was a ballot initiative by our residents, they went and it passed. Then we had COVID, so the required vote of the Department of Public Utilities was held up for a couple of years. So
Okay.
we had hired Good Energy along with other towns, and they represented like 6 or 7 towns before the Department of Public Utility. So we went out to market. Direct Energy was the best deal. They go through a procurement process. Direct Energy was the best deal. That was the provider for the service to the town of Marshfield. People had an opportunity to sign up. The mailers went out and things like that. Now, it's an automatic renewal, so they went out again just to check the rates. Direct Energy, once again, was selected. They had the best rates, and you could see that all of the participants in Community Electric are actually saving money.
Yeah, it's great.
So it's great. And, that's the good thing about Good Energy. They do all the work for the community, for our town, and in many other towns in Massachusetts.
Okay. So we're in good shape for the next 3 years, locked in at these rates.
That is correct.
And Direct Energy will do the supply for managing that particular,
They manage the process. The electricity still comes from comes from direct, but it comes through the
Right.
Eversource lines. Yep.
okay. So I have one final question, because it's always interesting to me, and it's the voluntary renewables. So I sat through the informational sessions that we had over at the high school and whatnot, and there were some pretty unique ways that folks are coming up with renewable energy. Is there anything that's new to the market that you'd like to share with us?
so there has been a bit of a change in where exactly the renewable is coming from, generally speaking in Massachusetts. However, the voluntary renewables that are put on the Marshfield supply all still come from Green Energy Consumers Alliance, which is a local nonprofit. So it continues to really be mostly the same projects. So we're looking at mainly solar and wind projects right here, mainly in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire is where we see those projects. So there's not a huge change in the voluntary renewable energy that's going into the Marshfield program. On the required side of the renewable energy, there's been some changes just based on what the state requires, but in terms of what you guys have elected to put into your supply, we're looking really at the same sources.
Okay, thank you so much. Everybody should keep their ears and eyes towards this, because it's an interesting part of how we pay our bills. So thank you for sharing. Eric, is there anything you'd like to ask?
Yes, a couple of questions. In regards to what happened last year, how were the residents that didn't sign up for this, how was their bills with their electric supply? I would say mainly Eversource was able to change.
So, sorry, correct me if I'm answering this question wrong, but anyone who didn't choose to go with the program that are residents in Marshfield can choose to join the program at any time. They can go on the website and sign up that way. They can also call Direct Energy and sign up with them over the phone as well. But if they, we always see people who are a little bit skeptical at first when a program launches, who choose to not participate right away. But we do oftentimes see people once, especially when you get through that initial contract and some of these numbers come out, they do come back and they are able to sign up either on the website or through the phone.
Yes, but how was people's bills able to change last year through the supplier when they were forced out of if the main supplier was supposed to be Eversource, and then they would change to direct supplier for, I think, a period of 2-3 months. How did that happen where their bills were able to be changed supplier-wise?
I think maybe I'm confused. Are you talking about like people who elected to not participate but were still switched into the program?
So when this program was rolling out, there were cards sent out to everybody whether they wanted to participate or not.
Yes.
Okay, and I would imagine, well, you only say you have about 9,000 participants, I think, in this right now. There was a group of people that sent them back saying that they wanted to keep their supplier as Eversource. So I believe last year, around December, January, February, these people, everybody that decided to stay with Eversource, the supplier was changed, unbeknownst to them. I believe it was to direct supplier. So how is it that the supplier was how was it that direct supply was able to be replaced by Eversource of people's accounts to be changed as a supplier? Do you have an answer?
Yes, sorry. So thank you. Now I do know what you're talking about now. That was due to an error in, we get these lists from Eversource and we get lists from Direct Energy as to who is supposed to be eligible to be what we call swept into the program. So every 2 or 3 months, Direct Energy conducts a sweep and basically mails out that same letter to people who have newly become eligible to get swept into the program. And what happened on the sweep that occurred around that time is the list was incorrect. So we got wrong data. And so those went out to people again and they got swept back into the program. We were able to rectify that and get them not only put back on Eversource supply, but retroactively put back on their supply. So it didn't actually occur, I guess, they would have seen it on their bills, but in terms of the actual supplier, it was fixed on the back end. But yeah, unfortunately, that was just an error in the data that we received at that point. Last year, Eversource did also change their billing system. So there was a point in time where people had 2 account numbers, and so that did factor into that as well.
All right, so if I'm understanding correctly on this, so after the initial letter went out that people wanted to join, there was another letter that was sent out, and if people didn't send those back that were currently on the Eversource supply, that if they didn't send those letters back, then they would automatically change to direct supplier. Am I understand that correct?
Yep, and so those sweeps do happen periodically, and the way it's supposed to work is those letters are only supposed to go to people who haven't previously received a letter before, but through just some errors in the data that was received, some people who had opted out received those letters again, which is why some people who had already returned that card were accidentally picked up, but we were able to work with Eversource and Direct to get them put back where they were supposed to be.
All right, yeah, because I don't recall getting that second letter, and then I come to find out that my supplier was changed. And I do agree that it was rectified, which I think everybody was grateful for. But I just wanted to get an answer to that. I appreciate it. And the other question I have is in regards to this whole program, whether it's Good Energy or Direct Supply, anybody involved, is any of this subsidized by the taxpayers?
Nope. So that's the great thing about the program. The way that these programs are authorized through the state, it really is a sort of pass-through cost. I'm trying to think of how to explain this. So Eversource, of course, continues to do the billing. And the way that there is no burden to the taxpayer. You guys don't spend any money on the program. It's not like a budget item. You also don't make any money off the program. It's really just something that you guys are able to offer with Eversource and through the state by bidding for bidding aggregately with these suppliers.
I appreciate that, thank you.
You all set?
I'm all good.
Can you just answer me one last question? Because I noticed that there was a tax credit that's available for folks that are using renewable. Can you just share with us how that process goes for an individual to get that tax credit?
Yeah, so actually, very soon, anyone who is specifically on the 100% project will be receiving an email. Green Energy Consumers Alliance, that nonprofit that supplies all of the voluntary renewable. Since they're a nonprofit, that's why a tax credit is available for people who are paying that portion of their supply. They do all of the actual calculations. They'll send an email that will allow residents to access their site, and they can put in their information and get that tax information that they would need to file their taxes with.
So they have to be Marshfield Plus, correct?
Marshfield Plus, it's really anyone that we have the contact information for, which tends to be predominantly Marshfield Plus participants, because they have to provide that extra contact information
Okay.
when they're choosing to opt out.
Okay, so the number that they could reach out to with questions, or anybody could reach out with questions, usually I don't provide this, but I will in this case, and correct me again if I am incorrect on this number, but I have 866-968-8065, or you can request at electricity.marshfield-ma.gov.
Yep, those are both correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate it. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Michael?
No, they have done a great job of troubleshooting, so Good Energy, just so people understand, they're our vendor. So they make sure that any of our residents that are having issues, they can channel them to direct, and they would give those number and that email that you just gave out. They also do all the back-end work for the town.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, ladies. Appreciate,
Yep, no problem.
appreciate you sharing this information with us, and I'm sure the town will be in touch with various situations as the years go by. So thank you for working with us.
Thanks for having us tonight. And yeah, if you have any other questions, you can get them to Michael and we can definitely get
Okay.
in contact with you guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Time is 7:13. Sorry for my cough, everybody, but, so we have our State of the Town presentation, and this is by our Town Administrator, Michael Maresco. So welcome to the board.
Thank you, Madam
So
Chair.
nice to see you.
Happy to be before the
And I know
board.
this is a very big presentation for us, so, and this is the first time we're hearing it.
And the state of the town really is to put everything into perspective. As folks know, we'll be rolling out the FY '26 budget on the 21st. So, it's important that residents have an idea of, how we fared this last year. So, if we can flip the slide. So the objectives are to review the town's overall fiscal health and achievements, review the town's overall county operating project, highlight economic development in the town, including affordable housing, provide an update on capital building projects, highlight the town's overall performance to date, and discuss how we plan to proceed for future challenges over the 5-year plan and forecast. Next slide, please. Fiscal '24 achievements. Town has made great advancements with the hiring of our new treasurer-collector, Sean Strobel, and our new town accountant, Meg LeMay. They've been working diligently with department heads to continue the implementation of our new financial software, Munis. The software itself is a very complex piece of software. It takes a lot of practice to get it working. And Sean and Meg have made that one of their number one things, is to make sure that all of our department heads are really comfortable with the functionality of Munis. It is that software that helps them accurately check what they've encumbered, what they're spending, how much money's left, which line items, the object code, everything like that. So in the end, it's a tough learning curve, but it will make their job a lot easier. Town's IT department continues to provide one-on-one training for any employees who need assistance maneuvering through the Munis software. IT continues to make cybersecurity improvements to our system to protect our data and our financial information for our residents that use it. Next slide, please. Secured and spent $4.5 million in CARES Act funds to provide services for our residents, such as the new senior center bus to transport seniors to shopping centers for food and medication, and the purchasing of 2 ambulances for our fire department. Marshfield was one of the first communities in Plymouth County to receive ARPA funding in the amount of $5 million, and to develop a plan to spend the funds with the support of the Select Board. ARPA spending, including funding for DPW water and sewer projects in the amount of $4 million. 1.7 of the $4 million appropriated by the Select Board went for a water project on Surf Ave. The remaining $2.3 million of the 4 went to the Plymouth Avenue sewer pump station. Also, a new fire pump truck for the fire department, $700,000, and supported our MIH EMS program for another $300,000. So for folks on our MIH was medical integrated health that we were trying out. It never worked. It's sort of very similar to what we do with the EMS program. We send people out to the shut-ins to make sure that there's someone checking in on them. The family will make arrangements. They may be feeling sick, they can't get out, they might need blood pressure, they might need a sugar screening, they might need a flu shot. During the height of COVID, they needed a COVID shot. But the real nuts and bolts of the MIH was where hospitals get penalized if they send people home too soon and there's not proper follow-up. We experimented with that, but it wasn't generating enough revenue to cover our costs, so we just decided that we would continue with the EMS program. So we continue to do that to this day. Plymouth County Treasurer Tom O'Brien and Plymouth County Commissioners just recently notified the town that they will use their county ARPA funds to close out the COVID clinic in the amount of $707,989. The clinic was able to inoculate over 100,000 people. So what is that money? Most people would be thinking those are funds, the bulk of the ARPA funds that we use for the clinic covered our personnel salary, the firefighters that administered the shots, our clerical staff that kept track of the information, our IT people that worked on the MIIS system. These were funds that weren't covered traditionally by the original ARPA funds and CARES Act funds. So normally, we had a change in treasurer-collector prior to Sean and Meg and town accountant. You would have been able to get reimbursed from the federal government, but that never went in at that time. So the county was stepped forward because we were a state and county inoculation center, and they wiped the slate clean for us. So that was great. So thank you to Tom O'Brien and Plymouth County Commissioners. I know it made Sean Strobel rest easily, not having to worry how we'd have to come up finding those funds. So they were great partners. Next slide, please. Dog Park is open and providing great socialization opportunities for our four-legged friends and their parents. The dog park's located next to the Boys and Girls Club, adjacent to the town fields. Trails Committee continues to make substantial improvements to our trails with greater access and continued expansion with new trail access point by St. Christine's Church off their parking lot and improvements along South River Street to connect the old train path with the Pratt Farm. You'll notice that from the power plant down to the Pratt Farm, they put in a stone dust pathway to help the walkers and keep them off the street. The major construction projects have all been completed, with the DPW being the last debt exclusion project. Thanks to the support of our residents, we now have a state-of-the-art police station, DPW facility, and a senior center. Next slide, please. We also have new seawalls in Brant Rock 1 and 2, new sewer pipes in the Brant Rock area and some of the streets, renovation of Town Hall after 50 years with all new bathrooms, new larger select board chamber that we're in at the moment, and a complete refresh of the offices with painting and new carpeting. DPW is working to make major improvements in the school playgrounds and other playground facilities to address the ADA issues and other deficiencies highlighted in the inspection report prepared by Reale Associates, Inc. Town is in the process of completing the new men's and women's bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms at the fire headquarters. Hopefully that project will be finished at the end of the month. Next slide, please. Town completed the first phase of beach nourishment on Bay Ave, and it's in the process of securing the permits to begin the second phase on February 1st, 2025. Beach nourishment has made significant improvements in the ability of our residents to now be able to use the beach on both sides of the high tide in that area where the beach nourishment was added, and it further provided additional protection to our residents and seawalls, people that are down in that area closest to the entrance point. They are able to use the beach. At one time, at high tide, the water came right up and people had to exit at the beach during high tide, so it's made some significant improvements. Next slide, please. Library continues to expand their services and cultural programs to meet the needs and wants of our community. This includes the pop-up library, STEM programs, reading challenges, and also localized summer hours on Sundays. Not summer, but Sunday hours. Senior Center is open daily for breakfast and lunch in the new Seaflower Cafe, so people are invited to come on down. The Munis conversion continues to move forward to provide our residents and our employees a comprehensive software application that will streamline services. This is the first major upgrade to our system in over 20 years. Following the completion of the Brant Rock seawalls, the DPW continues to make repairs to seawalls up on the High Road and in other areas as needed, including Ocean Bluff area to repair the revetment. Next slide, please. We continue our maintenance of town and school buildings, investing approximately $500,000 annually with the support of the Select Board and Town Meeting. We have received over $665,000 in county ARPA funding for 2 new recently delivered ambulances to better serve our community. Those came late fall. Solar carports have been installed at the police station. We hope to get photovoltaic carports installed in the Cap landfill and the dog park. The Martinson Roof Project has been accepted in the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program. Town meeting has approved the borrowing of $1,050,000 for the schematic design to be completed with cost estimates and bid documents to move that project forward. We continue adding and upgrading additional security cameras along our waterways, public buildings to keep our residents safe and secured. The dredge of the inner harbor was completed, keeping our commercial fleet and pleasure boat is safe. Harbor Master continues to secure grants for commercial ice machine that was installed on the commercial pier, repair of the boom, and the installation of a new boom on the other pier. All of those help our local fishermen. We're 4th or 5th larger lobster landing and tuna in this area in the Commonwealth. Next slide, please. The RTC has been working with Sealand Corporation. RTC is our Trails Committee, Recreational Trails Committee, to improve the dirt parking lot off of Ferry Street by increasing the size and by adding stone in a green area near the kiosk. A lot of our trails are being used now and want to make sure that cars are parking appropriately. The lines of sight along Clay Pit Road, the Marshfield, the animal shelter, and bridle path will be improved with selective grading and cutting back of the trees. Red Gold Farm Trail work is going on. Look for improved parking at the Webster Street entrance to Red Gold. That's on Plymouth Ave, along with the defined trails, kiosk map, trail benches, all which will be installed later this year. With the addition of an elevated boardwalk along the old rail bed, users will be able to bike and or walk from 139 Caswell Street to Station, Summer Street, for a total of approximately 7 miles. Recreational Trails Committee looks forward to developing additional partnerships with individuals, businesses, and organizations as we continue to improve our vast network of community trails. We also thank the residents for their continued support as we make Marshfield a more viable and pleasant place to live, work, hike, bike, horseback ride, and enjoy our natural resources. Next slide, please. The town's financial health continues to be very strong, as recognized by Standard & Poor's when they upheld our financial rating of AA+ for long-term borrowing and SP+1 for short-term borrowing. These are all very high. They're beneficial to us when we go out to the market. We get the best possible rates, and that's good for the taxpayers. Our stabilization reserves are at $6.8 million, includes stabilization and OPEB and some other money. These funds continue to earn interest, but just recently have started to earn additional interest thanks in part to the increase in the interest rates nationwide. Now, the converse also works in that if interest rates go down, then we lose interest on that. FY 2024 free cash and retained earnings were at the highest levels the town has received, due in large part to our sound financial management and the Select Board's support of our financial policies. We have moved away from market investment and focus is now on the actual cash earnings as opposed to future gains, given the stock market shift and the stability of interest rates. FY 2024 average interest rates peaked at 5.25% and then leveled off to 4.65% with the recent Federal Reserve rate drop. Our budget controls and fiscal policies have protected our departments and employees from layoffs and furloughs from 2020 through 2025 budget. We forecast no cuts of employees or material reduction of services at this time. Town administrator implemented a hiring freeze to preserve current employment levels and a 10% cut to the FY 25 expenses. Tightening budget controls, procurement, and the fiscal policies set in place have protected our employees, and we are in far better financial shape than our neighboring communities. We have approximately 13% of our assets in reserve and have built safety, liquidity, and yield into our market holdings, which have outperformed most municipalities around us. Next slide, please. Special thanks to our department heads who have worked with us to operate within the confines of their respective budgets. Department heads continue to monitor their expenses monthly in munis to ensure that there are no deficits. One of the things that's helped us through the tough times is the communication and working with our department heads. I'm happy to have such a great team of people. They really only request what they really need, so that makes a big difference. We continue to increase our contributions to the schools, and with the support of the Select Board, the schools received overall contribution of $57,702,307, not including costs for the 2 additional resource offices for the Furnace Brook Middle School and a floater for the elementary school. We also cover debt service, fixed costs, infrastructure, and maintenance. The schools do contribute for 9 out of the 12 months for the resource officer that's at the high school, and we pick up the remainder of the time. The strategic operation plan calls for continued conservative practices in town through fiscal 2031. Outlook for FY 25, FY 26, management of all fixed costs will continue, and we will need to continue to monitor expenditures as recent inflation these past few years has a direct impact on every department in operational budget throughout the footprint of our organization. One area that we'll continue to monitor is pension liability. Marshfield is 6 budget cycles away from Plymouth County retirement being fully self-funded. However, we have substantial increases of 10% in the pension expense line in the upcoming years, well over $1 million for the past year. States also, so Plymouth County was supposed to be done in 2029. They've extended it out to 2032. States also extended their state pension out 4 more years. Also, Plymouth County had to do it there. It was increasingly more difficult for some of the smaller communities in Plymouth County to be able to make those higher contributions. So they wanted to be respectful of that, and they made the adjustments. So continue to do that. So next slide, please. Okay, operational budget revenue. You'll see across the top, it's the FY25 operation budget. There's a column for what we actually spent in '22, what we actually spent in '23. It's the FY24 appropriation. You'll see, there's the base, the revenues were at 74,745, 208. Furnace Brook and the high school debt service exclusion is 5,868,297, 297, which the max total allowable levy was 80,613,505 in _24. And then in '25, you'll see the comparison right there, and you had 83,010,758 in total state offsets in '25, which is the year that we're in right now, is 18,607,095, and in FY24, which we just finished up, it was 18,152,044. You'll see the expenses. I won't read them, but if you see at the very bottom, the total revenue was 115,404,910. So that's the revenues. Next slide. Operational budget expense, and you'll see that the revenues and the expenses equal out, so we had a balanced budget. Next slide, please. Where does the revenue come from? Here's an estimate of the FY25 revenues. You'll see in the dark blue is the maximum total allowable levy, which is 83,010,758. Total state aid less offset is in the red. That's $18,607,095. And total other revenue is in the green, Marshfield green maybe, $13,787,058. Now, other revenue, those are our local receipts. So dog fees, excise tax, things like that. Next slide, please. Estimated FY25 expenses. Here's a breakout of the expenses, and you can see there's a correspondence to the color down below, tells you what each one of the colors represents. The red is the school, blue is town government, and there's state and county assessments, etc. And all of this will be up on the town's website, so people can take a better look at it. Next slide, please. Public safety highlights. Police Department under Chief Tavares continues working towards certification and accreditation, which is the gold standard in law enforcement. This professional accrediting program is an effective risk management tool for preventing and reducing loss and professional liability claims, provides a norm for judging performance, provides a basis to correct deficiencies, and promotes accountability among personnel. Also provides a means of independent evaluation of operations for quality assurance and promotes public confidence in the department. The police department continues to have 3 full-time school resource officers assigned to our schools. Chief Tavares and the Marshfield Police Department continue working hard to maintain full compliance with 129 new reform policy requirements. We have made significant changes in our policies and procedures and have increased training inside those areas. There will be ongoing rolling compliance with different start dates through 2025. The Marshfield Police Department has moved forward with the appointment of special police officers to assist the department with functions previously handled by the pertinent intermittent officers, which are no longer allowed. Under post laws, PI officers are no longer allowed, putting a strain on the police department. Special police officers appointed by the Select Board help fill the void as police officers for the town of Marshfield up to the age of 65. They assist with traffic details, community events. All special police officers must be certified and in good standing. The police continue working with the mental health clinician that is shared with the towns of Norwell and Duxbury. At the December special town meeting had supported the necessary funding to bring the clinician permanently to the police department sometime in spring of 2025. This year, clinician Cohen performed 254 follow-ups, responded to every mental health-related call that happened while she was working, and responded to others while on call. Next slide, please. Massachusetts Chief of Police released a 114-page school security best practice guide. In response, the Marshfield Police Department created a new active shooter policy that calls for new procedures on how to enter warm zones with a rescue team consisting of both police officers and firefighters. This was designed to save more lives by treating victims while the contact team locates the threat and stops it. Every officer completes 16 hours of training on the new policy. Training is also in partnership with our fire department. We monitor every single town any type of force is used beyond compliant handcuffing. A use of force team meets and reviews every case to determine if they acted within the law in our policies and procedures. Yearly reports are generated and reviewed. I am pleased to report we have very little use of force, and all incidents of force were determined to be compliant with law and policies. The department is currently working towards certification with the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission, MPAC. Massachusetts is one of 30 states that offers this certification, which is strictly voluntary and requires the department to adhere to 159 professional standards, covering all aspects of policing, considered to be best practices in law enforcement. The department is in the self-assessment phase, which requires the department to thoroughly examine its current policies and practices and update them when needed to meet the MPAC standards. A large part of this is to train all officers on all new policies. Once self-assessment is complete, all external peer reviews by the Commission will confirm the department is meeting those standards. Certification will provide town residents with even greater accountability and professionalism, and is another example of the department's commitment to providing the very best services to our community. We are scheduled for a full certification assessment in January of 2025. Next slide, please. Public safety highlights from the Harbor Master. Completion of the Green Harbor Jetty project for both the Army Corps and the town portion of dredging. Some remaining cleanup will be needed in the fall of 2025. Ongoing Green Harbor Jetty realignment project with the Army Corps. We will be planning a session with the Army Corps to brief the town sometime in February or March of 2025. Ongoing permitting of the Damon Point Dock and Pier project partially funded. Ongoing permitting of the Ridge Road Boat Ramp and Dock project, which is funded. Completion of the Green Harbor Commercial Boom is ongoing, and that's funded. Continued water quality testing of the North-South rivers for recreational shellfishing, coupled with the Division of Marine Fisheries. Completion of 200 bushels shellfish propagation relay project by adding cohogs to our recreational tidal flats for Marshfield and Situate. FEMA Port Security Grant in the amount of $603,000 for the replacement of Unit 1, the Harbor Master's boat. Seaport Economic Council awarded $262,600 for the permitting and engineering the North-South River dredging project. Funding in limbo as we are not an MBTA compliant community. Completion of 2 free accredited safe boat courses for 65 local students, and completion of an awarded cybersecurity infrastructure security agency CISA tabletop exercise in April of 2024, which was really helpful for those that participated in security for the festival, for the fair, and other activities that the town and police department are involved in. This exercise was for all state, local first responders that provided great insight for potential future incidents to increase our preparedness posture for future large-scale events and local events. Next slide, please. Highlights from the fire department. Marshfield Fire Department continues operating iron responding emergency response notification system that has reduced response time, simplified daily operations, enhanced communication, improved incident notification, and streamlined our ability to operate effectively. Consistently delivered a high level of emergency services while providing adequate staffing to meet the daily needs of our residents. MIH EMS continue to provide services for our most vulnerable residents at their home for blood pressure checks and other required medically necessary support services. Just recently, the Select Board appointed a new fire chief to lead the department. Chief Michael LaSalva, who had been serving as the acting chief, on January 3rd, 2025, Chief LaSalva was sworn into office with his new officers, Patrick Smith, Deputy Chief, Michael Marshall, Captain, Ron Allard, Lieutenant, Dana Unanks, Lieutenant. Next slide, please. Firefighter Dave Longerblade received the Lewis Buddy Cipolo Award for cardiac arrest save. Did a great save on one of our residents. The department took delivery of 2 new advanced life support ambulances this past fall. 3 members of the fire team hit the 30-year mark: Tom Hickey, Tom Corbo, and Bill Ciano. Deputy Chief Pat Smith graduated from the Executive Fire Officer Program through the National Fire Academy in Etzmanburg, Maryland. We have 1 new hire, James Manning, who recently joined the department. Next slide, please. Highlights from our information technology. Appointed a new systems analyst, migrated to Munis, software as a service, i.e. cloud hosted, migrated to Microsoft 365 email, launched endpoint detection and response antivirus software, migrated to new domain controllers, migrated to Gentech security platform for physical access controls, Wi-Fi overhaul at Town Hall, migration to new website hosted by Resvi, upgraded and consolidated Patriot properly accessing database. The bulk of these changes were necessary to make sure that we're compliant with cyber protection. We also have cyber insurance. One thing about the cyber insurance, if we're not constantly investing into our IT platform, and something happens, they could jeopardize them paying us for that. So that's why we invest with the support of the board. We're able to continue to do that in town meeting. Next slide, please. Highlights from the Council on Aging. Receive funding and hire a consulting, UMass Boston. Work with the Council on Aging on creating an age dementia-friendly action plan. Townwide age dementia-friendly action plan steering committee recruited and appointed. UMass completed a draft age dementia-friendly plan in December of '24. Grant from the Massachusetts Council on Aging dementia-friendly consultant and memory cafe support programs. Got a grant from the Mass COA used for modernization grant for refurbishment of the outdoor patio area. A grant from the State Executive Office, dementia-friendly modernization of social day space. That work was completed in December of 2024. Federal grant from OCPC for a social day program. Received CPC funding for outdoor improvements for Council on Aging and Marshfield Youth Baseball League for $337,000. Received grant award notification for a new bus through GATRA. Signed an MOU with the boosters outlining parameters to business partners who may be providing financial support and sponsorship to the Council on Aging. Completed and unveiled new video for a virtual tour of the senior center. That's to entice other seniors that don't readily participate to want to participate. Participate in a new round of the Regional Mental Health Grant Consortium through the Social Work Intern Program at Bridgewater State University. Conducted a community age and dementia survey 463 surveys were returned. Organized 5 focus groups regarding the 8 domains of the Age and Dementia-Friendly Initiative, with 80 people participating. Next slide, please. The commitment, this is for the schools, highlights for the schools. Commitment to the schools begins at 3% per year. Schools have continued to make security enhancement to all their facilities, including the entrance areas and the ADA improvements, including a new ramp at South River School. We continue to make improvements in the HVAC at the Furnace Brook Middle School. Town is committed to 2 additional full-time school resource officers, 1 at the Furnace Brook Middle School and 1 that floats between the elementary schools. Schools under the direction of Superintendent Dr. Patrick Sullivan, Business Manager Tom Miller, have worked cooperatively with the financial team, and the communication has never been better. The Granitino Preschool is at full capacity and continues to serve our very young children. Next slide, please. Conservation Commission highlights. Town has added 111 acres of conservation land to its inventory at Red Gold Farm off of Moraine Street and Webster Street. The additional land has allowed for the expansion of the trail system and completes a link to the Duxbury line over the Green Harbor River with the use of the old Rio bed. Veterans Memorial Park Lagoon and South River Improvement Project has successfully secured all permitting necessary to begin the project in FY 2025. North and South Watershed Association was instrumental in assisting town with various grant applications, and with their help, the town was granted a $1 million towards the project by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. With the National Fish and Wildlife funds, additional funds from the North-South River Watershed Association and the town of Marshfield grant match approved at the April 2024 town meeting fully funded the project for all phases of construction. Once the ecological restoration is completed, the establishment of a naturalized engineered riverbed will create pools and eddies, replacing the fish ladder, ensuring fish passage and better flood control. The goal of this ecological restoration is to improve the habitat for the anonymous fish that call the South River home. Species such as the alewife, the blueback, and shad. An important fish run will hopefully increase the migration of these fish that has dwindled over the years as they try to reach suitable breeding habitat further up the South River. The Beach Nourishment Project off of Bay Ave has successfully completed roughly half of the permitted beach nourishment in conjunction with the town of Duxbury at the Duxbury Beach Reservation. The addition of sand and material to the beach provides additional protection against erosion and damage to recently repaired and improved seawalls and the homes behind it. Next slide, please. Highlights of veteran services, memorial signs, dedicated 16 signs to our fallen Marshfield service members, Purple Heart signs, Marshfield designated Purple Heart team, veteran parking, there'll be a dedicated parking space in the town hall parking lot, Veterans Park construction, Veterans Park improvement and dam removal project, Bronze Star dedication at Veterans Day, had a Vietnam veteran receive his overdue Bronze Star at our Veterans Day ceremony. Monthly coffee hours at the COA, monthly informational sessions for our veterans at the Council on Aging. Weekly, there's the Poppies meeting. Poppy group has grown to over 40-plus women. They have weekly meetings. Weekly veterans luncheons. Veteran group has grown to over 20 veterans. They get together weekly for a luncheon. Collaboration with the Situate Life Care Center. Visits with the veterans at the Situate Life Center. And quarterly with Marshfield veterans. Collaboration with SST. Luncheon at the Brass Lantern at SST. Visits with allied health students for blood pressure and healthcare checks. Student builds ramps for veterans. IT shop came and helped with their electronics. Monthly Veterans Food Drive at WATD every month. HERO Act had over 120 participants learn about the benefits rolled out by the state of Massachusetts. Pickleball tournament, local support for our veterans gift account. MCRO, welcome at the event, donations made to our veterans gift account, and that is the rib cook-off for anyone that wasn't familiar with that acronym. Toy drive at Christmas, last minute for 3 single mothers, huge response from our town. Turkeys at Thanksgiving, local organizations donated full Thanksgiving meals for 5 veteran families. Cleaned the World War II monument, had the monument cleaned by a local resident, donated his time, materials, and labor. Marshfield Dog Park fundraiser supported the Veterans Gift Account with Slag Tie Coffee fundraiser. Visit to school ceremonies and events with our veterans. Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Stars and Stripes Club, new collaboration. Marshfield High School students to do yard work and local errands. We'll be hosting a Veterans Forum at Marshfield High School this spring. Alice's House Visit, Poppy's Luncheon on Hummerock Beach for a day of camaraderie, friendship, and peace. WATD airtime, local airtime to advertise benefits, events, and ceremonies. Next page, please. Highlights from the building department. We have had more homes in flood zones choose to elevate prior to make improvements than ever before. There are currently 17 existing homes being elevated prior to doing additions or remodels. Additionally, there are 15 new homes being constructed in flood zones at this time. The parcel across the street from the Quirk dealership in Caston Flagon is being developed into a brand-new self-storage facility. Construction has begun on both Mill Creek and Bridle Crossing 40B developments, which have enabled us to meet our quota for affordable housing at over 10% and have discretion over any future proposed 40B developments. Construction is underway for an addition and dry flood proofing of the Plymouth Ave pump station. Dry flood proofing is a process where the building is engineered and has specific flood barriers installed that makes the structure impervious to water infiltration and strong enough to withstand the pressure of flood, providing assurances that this vital pump station will be protected from flooding and damage if a 500-year flood was to occur. Next slide, please. Debt picture. Outside debt continues to decline because of how the debt payments have been scheduled. Excluded debt will see a significant reduction in 2034, and 2036. Excluded debt is just that. We vote a debt exclusion. That's the excluded debt. Inside not excluded debt, that's when we do relatively small borrowings for capital projects. We did a borrowing for $1,050,000 on a band. So, we have those things. So you can see we have the chart right there that shows you in the different colors, the principal and the interest on debt service.
Can I interrupt you for a sec? Because
Yes.
you've been talking for a while.
Yes.
So, I'll give you a second. But
Thank you.
where
Water.
the outside debt continues to decline because of how the debt payments have been scheduled. Excluded debt will see a significant reduction in 2034 to 2036. So you can see where that, there is quite a significant drop in this graph. So what is the reason for that particular change in interest and principal?
That would be, I believe, the high school project, but I'll defer to Sean.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
High school project, okay. And then we kind of level off, and then it's a more gradual change. Obviously, you see the interest rate is not as significant as we're seeing it at this point.
And when you look at that, Madam Chair, that's the debt picture today.
Right.
As we add more, so that will change.
Right.
If we were to, we hit the lottery and didn't have to do anything else and just continue to pay, that's what it would look like.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay,
Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you, I was able to get a sip of water.
I know.
Maintenance fund, town hall, Monson Elementary School, et cetera. I'm not gonna read all these, just we could sort of scroll to the next slide. This will all be up on the website, this, library, Library Plaza. Next slide, please. Governor Winslow School, additional things that are being done. Next slide. South River School, the GAR Hall. Next slide, please. Fire Hills, the Hills Fire Station, a couple of times there, the Beach Fire Station. So this really shows the work that's taking place with the maintenance fund. Next slide, please. Central Fire. Next slide. Council on Aging, even though it's a new building, you need to constantly be making maintenance. There's always something that needs to be done, just like your house. And the wastewater treatment plant. Next slide. Daniel Webster School again. Next slide. Amesway School. Next slide. Furnace Brook Middle School. You'll see. Next slide. Marshfield High School. Next slide. Police station, the animal shelter, and the Harbor Masters building. Next slide. School administration building, which is the old town hall, and the preschool, that was the construction and the retrofitting, which is now the Jeff Granatino preschool. Next slide, please. Also, we did some, we had to install something at the Alamo, the rec center, the airport, and the rec center again. In case people are wondering why the airport's up there, we actually own the airport, we own the building, and we own the land. It's professionally managed by a vendor that we bring in. Next slide. Dog park maintenance, skate park maintenance, Daniel Webster Estate, Dyke Road, wastewater treatment, Damon's Point, the town fuel depot. Next slide. The multi-courts behind the Boys and Girls Club, CPC funded 23 multi-courts behind the Boys and Girls Pool in FY23. FY24, barn at 214 Moraine Street. It was a clean out, there was bats. That was the barn that was turned over to us as part of Red Gold. It was pretty disgusting. It had to be shoveled out. I guess the bats were in there for decades. We had a house at 82 Wyoming and Pleasant Street Tower, where we have repeaters and antennas. Next slide, please. Okay, planning and economic development. This gives you a taste for what's going on. You'll see in the extreme left-hand corner the development name. I won't read them all, they're there. The next column is the number of residential units, if there's affordability, square feet, total land area, type of permit, and status. Next slide, please. It's just a continuation, you'll see. Next slide. Planning and economic development. Marshfield, with funding through the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, completed a long-term coastal resiliency plan this year. The purpose of the study was to look at what policies for reconstruction the town should have in place after a future catastrophic storm event. The study area ran along the coast and included Wrexham, Fieldston, Ocean Bluff, Grant Rock, and the Bay Avenue area of Green Harbor, and addressed the projected sea rise for 2030 and 2050. The study looked at the possible damage and loss by sector and then performed a benefit-cost analysis to help determine possible mitigation strategies. Recommendations including clarifying building height language regarding the flood zone, requesting the Army Corps to conduct a hurricane and storm damage reduction feasibility study, pursue a low-interest revolving loan program to assist residents in elevation of low-lying homes and businesses, study the construction and enhancement of Dyke Road, improving the local flood warning system, developing a substantial damage for post-storm event coordination, and permitting of construction. The town has already filed for FEMA grants for the last two recommendations. The town administrator and the DPW staff are in discussion for next year filing for a grant to study the reconstruction and enhancement of the dike, this is something that's going to need to be done sooner than later. Why this is a long-term effort, the work could reduce potential flood damage for over 500 homes in the low-lying areas that may not have the financial means to elevate their homes. So the dike really protects those 500 homes. Next slide, please. Challenges as we move forward. We will continue to monitor financial challenges to our local, state, and federal economy. Got to keep an eye on inflation, interest rates, fuel prices, healthcare costs. Marshfield's a 50-50 community. Retirement costs, pensions, and OPEB. Non-compliance with the MBTA zoning. Next slide, please. Thank you. Tonight I stand before you to tell you that the financial health and well-being of the town of Marshfield is fit, secure, and consistent. This is thanks to our very strong and reaffirmed bond rating of AA+ and SP+1 on short-term borrowing, strong management, sound fiscal policies. We are and have been recession-proof community for 7 years, and that trend continues. It is once said that the moral test of government is how that government treats those who are in the dawn of their life, the children, those who are in the twilight of their life, the elderly, and those who are in the shadow of their life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. That was Herbert H. Humphrey. Our town of Marshfield has something for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So I appreciate the work that has gone into providing us with this insight. And I know that last year I spent a long time taking this information, digesting it, back and forth with questions, and I believe I reached out. We were working with finding our space in treasury and accounting, and I know that if I come to you, you'll have the answers that I need, and my select board members will as well. And same goes for you, Michael, so I appreciate it. But the fire department, the police department, all of these things, although it's a lot to have you sit here and say it all, but then you realize at the end of it that we have a lot going on. We have a lot going on. So is there anything else you'd like to add, more on a maybe personal reflection of where we have to go? Or,
sure. I mean,
yeah.
I think that you're right. There is a lot. I tried to whittle it down and really, hit some of the more significant things. The problem is that we are so active, and I can't thank the department heads enough. I don't do it. I manage it, and manage the people and manage the resources. It's our department heads that really take charge, whether it's planning or the building department, the fire department, the police department. Everyone has their responsibilities and what they have to do, and you can see that we've accomplished so much because, people are working at about 100%. And we're very fortunate. That's what keeps our community so vibrant.
Right. So I recall last year spending a little bit of time getting into the weeds on the operational budget and the revenue. And we have our treasurer and accountant here as well. So you did go through it pretty succinctly. But I would like to just, if IT can bring us back to page 13. They're working on it. Excellent. Okay. Perhaps you can bring that a little bit bigger. I have my glasses here, but I don't know if everybody in the room can see it.
Colin, can you make it a little bigger?
No?
No? Okay.
Okay, we'll live with it. Okay, so we talked about the max total allowable levy, which is under Martinson and MHS.
Can we just go back one slide? We
Yeah.
want to go on to the revenue slide. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a 2.97% increase in that between fiscal year '24 and fiscal year '25. That's not unpredictable. We understand that. We're going to continue down a little bit, and we see the community impact fee at 20%. And I recall there being some information that I had last year, and I don't have my notes in front of me. Can you explain to me how those figures are accrued and what that means?
I'll take a stab at it.
Thank you.
Sean can correct, but the community impact fee is the money that we get from the marijuana business that's presently operating in town. That's our share of funds that we get based on their gross sales.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep in mind too.
Sean, come on. Sean, why don't you come on?
Yeah, either or the podium or next to me. And introduce yourself again. I keep
Sean
seeing your
Strobel,
name.
Town Treasurer here for Town of Marshfield. So just keep in mind that when the FY '25 budget was crafted, that was before the changes in legislation. So for example, the local tax on marijuana, that has since dropped off. So you're going to see a
Right.
change in the upcoming proposed FY 2026 budget.
Okay, thank you. So this is like a prevamp to what we may
Yes.
be forced to look at. Okay.
Yes.
I shouldn't say forced, but you get
It's-
my drift.
it's
You get
a-
my drift.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but when laws change and taxation isn't there, and that is a revenue source for the town, but since the laws have shifted, we're going to have to pivot. So this is where some of our revenues are shrinking, where in some other areas, our revenues have increased.
Right, and so we'll get to that pretty quickly, and I don't want to spend a lot of time, because I'm sure Eric has questions as well. So above that is the community impact fee. Can you just explain to us why that's gone away?
So the community impact fee, that really has to do first and foremost with the recreational marijuana industry. So that, as most people are aware, the laws had changed where that local sales tax, that 3%, is no longer in play anymore because it was peeled back. In addition, there's an oversaturation in that particular market. So just about every community has some sort of recreational cannabis facility. So this is based off the volume, but the projection was based off of a second location here in the town, which I don't believe has yet to open.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
hoping it opens, but it hasn't.
Yeah, we're working on a few things, but yeah. So there are some pretty significant percentage increases, which, I mean, the dollars and cents don't add up, but they are enough that warrant a discussion. So you'll see the 133%, which is on the waterways. And that may be something that you're unfamiliar with, but we can give it a stab.
The waterways is money, do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, the Waterways Fund is run through Mike DeMayo, a harbor master, and that is the money that comes in, and that's the money he uses to make improvements to the harbor, the walkways and things like that.
Okay. So there's another large one as well at the solar panels at increase over fiscal year '24. So you can see that number as well, which I believe I know the answer to, but I will defer to each of you on that one.
So that has to do with the net metering credits that the town receives for producing renewable energy. So that really is a moving target, just depends on really what we're able to sell back to the grid. There is a percentage that's being calculated for the net metering effect. So that really is driven by not only environmental, if it's sunny or not, that really drives whether or not we're actually able to produce electricity and sell it back to the grid. But that's a moving target that's being monitored.
Right, okay. So I always look at these things and I go to the bottom line, bottom corner, 3.35% increase in revenue. That's a pretty modest increase. It's not crazy, but it's an increase, right? And it's also kind of in keeping where the state is. I just read their report. I think I spoke to you about it without even seeing this ahead of time. But so is that in line with our percentage increases in the past few years? And if you don't have that answer, you can just get it to me later.
Yeah, I would have to look to see, what the percentage increases have been in revenues, but typically it's around the three.
decrease.
It's around the 3% mark.
Okay,
Because remember, the basis for that is the
Is the 2.5.
the levy.
yeah,
Then you add the local receipts, and the treasurer's right, local receipts are going down. He wouldn't be able to tell you how much.
Right.
But they are trending down. That's why, as they trend down, we become more conservative.
okay. Thank you for that. So we're also looking at the same thing, and you mentioned how much you're working on keeping the numbers and being conservative and having everybody toe the line in a way. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. So we're at 3.33% on the operational budget number if you go all the way down. And I'm sure there's many of you that can see that. Next page, please.
They have operational, Madam Chair.
Excuse me?
He's got the operational.
Oh, he does, okay.
It's okay.
Okay. So you can see here as well, there are some significant changes. Sorry for my cough, everybody. 44.19% is an increase in an expense, which is not a surprise on the utilities end of things, but feel free to add in if it's something that's specific that I need to know about. We also have our insurance and Medicare at 17.78%. That seems higher than the normal private sector, but I'm not familiar with.
Madam Chair,
these.
let me jump in.
Yeah,
So
please do.
On the utility costs, remember?
Yep.
We just doubled the size of the police station,
Police,
the DPW,
council.
and the senior center.
Yep.
So those are some of the costs, but, our rates go up just like a residential
Right.
consumer also. But it's the footprint that we have to provide the electricity to.
Right.
And what was the other one you were asking?
So then I was asking about general insurance and Medicare, which I know from what I pay and how I do my thing, that the significant cost on just the private level is crazy every year these days. So 17.78% increase
So-
in insurance and Medicare.
So based on the trend, just for Medicare alone, MedX expense from FY '22 to FY '23 was an over 280,000 increase. So that actually had an impact on the calculation for the future, and that's why you're seeing an increase from 2.3 in FY '24 to 2.7 in FY '25. That has since corrected itself, so we're actually going to see that coming down in FY 2026.
Okay.
And again, the budget is just based off of projections and the numbers, and due to the fact that we're going from one financial system to another financial system, some of those accounts and the accounting didn't line up, and this is really where we're starting to right-size with accurate data that's currently in the new core ERP system.
Okay. So when you do, I'm sorry to ask this question as well, but.
That's okay.
So when you're doing the projections into your healthcare and insurance, do you do a 5-year projection on that, or how do you manage that?
So it's
We're
really-
having this conversation.
It's almost like the law of averages. So when it comes to retiree healthcare, it really depends on how many folks are actually subscribing. So as you know, as retirees age, some of them are falling off. So in some cases, this could be a switch where a lot of folks that are turning the age of 65 who are still working switch to the MedX program, and they go off the traditional 50-50 split with the town. Or we have folks that are no longer employed by the town, but were employed, that are eligible for any plan that involves retirement post 65. So that might have explained the spike in FY 2023, but that number has since leveled back down. So looking at the averages, the projection is based off the actual because we have to be sensitive to the fact that we have new enrollments. However, that corrected itself in 2024.
So it is a little bit, so you're projecting, you don't know exactly who on our staff will be.
Correct.
Utilizing the benefits that we offer. So
Correct.
that makes sense to me. So thank you for that. I think I have just 2 other comments, and then I'll let Mr. Kelly have a chance at asking you some questions. So the other one was the facilities, and I know the facilities has done a lot of work in trying to manage their department. So Michael, you may be able to help with this explanation of this increase, or it's actually a decrease?
It's actually a decrease. There
Correct.
was, I don't know exactly, there was, because this particular operational budget, there may have been some offhand, I'd have to look up and see what the increase, if you see, it's usually 268, 262, 380, and then 380 again. There was an anomaly in FY '24 of 1.5. I wouldn't be able to answer that. Would have
Okay,
to
so-
look back unless you can.
So I think what happened is through the special meeting process, some of the articles were assigned from an operational budget perspective and not the special fund.
Oh, so you're doing a little bit of,
So again, we made some corrections to that because
Okay.
when special town meeting or any votes to appropriate free cash, it was
Right.
assigned to the facilities budget lines when in fact it should be assigned to a special article. So that has since been corrected.
so this spreadsheet reflects that? Okay.
So the budget will, again, it's a right sizing effect. So in FY '25, that was corrected.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm glad I asked. And then the, the overlay, which people may need to know what that means. So can you just share with the public and then?
So in essence, what the overlay is whenever an abatement is granted, that is contributing to the total for the overlay. So exemptions to the taxation or an abatement that is applied and is granted by the board contributes to the overlay number.
Okay, thank you. So folks will see 3.33%, and that's on the expense side, and we had 3.35% on the budget revenue side, and we're really kind of in line with the objective to what you and your departments are doing. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I know we'll get into the weeds on some of these things, and thank you to all your department heads for providing this information to us as well. Eric, your turn.
Thank you. On this budget, it's coming up for this fiscal year. This is the total operation expense for everybody?
For fiscal year 2025, yes.
So all expenses. This is what we're expending out for '25 into next year.
Well, this is the fiscal year we're in now. Next week, we'll be rolling out the FY '26 budget, which goes into effect on July 1.
All right, so
We're
what-
halfway through this budget, the
All right, so-
FY '25, yes.
So right now, we're just discussing this
It's
current year's
Yes,
budget.
that's correct, yeah.
All right. But either way, let's put it this way, on this budget that you have here now, this is the expense for this total fiscal
Correct.
year and all that. All right. The discussion with the ARPA funds, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'll ask right now to get an answer. It was mentioned to me that the fire department had a line item for the ARPA funds, and it was deleted out. Is there any truth to that?
No. When you say the fire department, we got them the pumper truck, we got them the 2 ambulances. We actually got ambulances through CARES Act also.
So there's CARES Act money and then there's American Recovery. So there's two different tranches of funds.
Okay.
So some of the CARES Act money went to purchase the pumper truck. There was also some community involvement as far as the clinics were concerned from, and I believe the fire department was instrumental in supporting that initiative. And then there was the 2 ambulances that were secured and mostly paid by ARPA. There was a town contribution of about $37,000 towards those 2 rescue units.
All right, so getting back to my original question, so, like I said, this is what I was told, I don't know if it's true or not, but was
No, there
any
was
no
no
ARPA funds are deleted from the fire department?
The only other department that got ARPA or CARES Act money directly was the school department.
Okay. I do have a concern in regards to in regards to the discussion earlier, but it highlighted me in regards to your meeting with Mr. Tom Hickey, Mike, and then you
Yes.
said, "my financial team." Is that how you classify it in regards to the town operations, everybody, your financial team, or how do you want to restate that in any way?
I don't know what you're getting at, Mr. Kelly, but it is the town's, everyone's town employees. It's my responsibility to manage the operation.
Manage it, yes.
Yes.
Does it fall into my financial team?
If I said that, it's not, they personally don't work for me, they work for the town.
All right, Munis, in regards to last year and a discussion with your pay raise, Mr. Strobel, is everyone in your department up to speed in regards to being able to use Munis?
I'm not really sure what you mean.
Well, you said that Munis was a complicated tool, I guess, that was to, if I remember correctly, that took a lot of time to get used to and getting people up to speed, if I remember correctly in that meeting. So as of right now, how is the training of all the staff in the Treasurer's Department in regards to knowing how to operate Munis and use it? Like, let's say, like, you're not there anymore. Someone able to step in and use it, not have a problem.
I would say that operationally, we could have someone step in. I believe that my assistant is becoming more well-versed. Now, as far as the aspect of how I operate within Munis, right now, we're just in the core accounting system. We're in the AP system. We are in the purchasing aspect of Munis. We're not in taxation yet. We're not in cash receipts yet. Those are implementations that we're working to start the process. But right now, we're just in the realignment stage right now. We're still going through defining roles and permissions with a consultant just to make sure that it was set up correctly. Unfortunately, when it was initially implemented, they copied permissions and user rights from another community. So unfortunately, it does not really fit for how the town is functioning. So we have to make those corrections. So to answer your question, it's all in stages.
So this whole Munis thing is not staged operationally.
Well,
In regards to its implementation, is that what it's not-
implementations happen in phases. So right now, we're in the process of correcting the first initial phase, which is the core accounting system. But in concert with that, we've also gone out to the field. IT has been very instrumental in providing end-user training, which has helped to drive the decentralization of a lot of the accounting processes.
So how instrumental is IT in this whole process?
Because they're the ones going out into the field to train folks.
So IT is the one that knows how to oversee and use Munis? Is that how I'm understanding it?
IT has been training end users on certain processes. I would not say that they are subject matter experts in everything Munis, but as far as the training, they've been instrumental in helping with the training for certain activities within Munis for end users.
All right, let's just stick to your department, I guess. And maybe this will help clarify it. So would they know how to do the budget, IT themselves?
No, the budget's
Okay.
not done. in
All right, so
Munis.
what is IT's role in regards to training and all this, in regards to Munis? This is what I'm missing.
IT is going out to the department, so we have somebody going out to, let's say, DPW, and providing either one-on-one or a couple of folks training on how to enter in invoices, how to enter in requisitions. They're the ones going out into the field, training the end users on how to use certain aspects or functionality within.
All right, so something within the scope of the department is what they're doing, I guess, is what you're looking at, right?
Correct.
All right. You mentioned in your report, my cameras along the waterways. Can you be a little more specific on cameras along the waterways?
Cameras down where we have the harbor, also Ridge Road, Damon's Point. We want to enhance the security in those areas.
How long are those recordings retained for?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question, but I can check with the chief and find out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that. There's there's nothing really to retain over a period of time, I'd like to see it deleted. I mean, there's no reason to keep track of people on a forever basis, whoever's using it or whatever.
We would comply with whatever the regulations are in the Commonwealth of Mass, as opposed to public records.
Yeah, I guess that's a problem as well, in regards to retaining it. And maybe that's something that needs to be looked into, where we're recording everything
That's
going
a
on.
state law, Mr. Kelly.
No, I understand that, Mike. I understand that. You brought up in the report, lines of sight, Clay Pit Road, selective grading. What do you mean by that?
Yes, so if you're familiar with Clay Pit Road, where the animal shelter is, if you're coming from Furnace, you'll come to the track bed. And right where the train used to be, where the paths are, on the left-hand side, if you're heading to Grove Street, they're gonna take the mountain down. This is being funded by the Red Gold Farm folks. They're gonna clean that out because we wanna make sure there's been, it's, if the people don't press the crossing lights and someone's coming down there and they just step out into that street, we've been very fortunate. The line of sight's not good. You really can't see until you get very close. So there's always been that big mountain of dirt in front of the animal shelter. That's gonna be leveled down and pushed back. So cars coming will be able to see that area. That's a very dangerous area.
That's town property, isn't it?
Yes,
How come that's something that DPW couldn't take care of?
because there would be a charge. This person's gonna do it for free.
The DPW would charge you to do it, or the town?
Well, there's a charge. We pay the employees to do it, sure. Everyone gets paid.
I think we budget their salaries every year, don't we?
Yep.
All right, there's two, in case, I even have a hard time grasping this myself, but as well as the general public. What is free cash? What is that
Well,
entitled?
free cash, it
Entail.
is an oxymoron term, so we agree on that. So when we put a budget together, when the financial team, Sean, myself, when we sit down, we plan the budget, you're 18 months out, so you have to make a prognostication of what you anticipate the market will be, what the cost of goods will be, things like that. So, sometimes you get it right. You try not to get it wrong, because if you get it wrong, then you gotta find the money. And so at the end of a fiscal year, when you close out the books, money that's left over, not spent, is what is certified by DOR as free cash. The reason they call it free cash, because it's already been appropriated. It's appropriated but not spent.
All right, I get that. I mean, I guess, I know I asked about this at a while back, actually, the last budget, I think Sean was going over it, in regards to, we had money left over, and I asked if there's any way to return it to the taxpayers, and Sean said there was no process for that. So is it possible to file an article for town meeting if Lynn and Steve were interested in regards to any money left over, return it to the ratepayers?
Well, now you're talking about ratepayers, those are different.
Or taxpayers, however the free cash is, I don't know if it's
Well,
taxes or rate.
Some is retained earnings,
Yeah.
which would go to the ratepayers, people that pay water and sewer. And then the tax money would be for everyone else, but you can be a ratepayer and a taxpayer. I would defer to town councils here, that's a legal question to Bob.
Is this beyond the scope of what we're doing right now, where this isn't? I'll start with that. Ms. Attorney Galvin, so number one, is Eric Kelly's question beyond the scope of the purpose of the state of the town presentation? Or is this something that,
I think, it's Mr. Kelly's question.
yeah, okay,
Talking about the budget, I think it's
yeah, okay.
a question that could be answered. If the question is, can you give free cash back to ratepayers? You could, but it probably wouldn't be a good fiscal practice.
All right, I guess, what would your opinion be on that, I guess?
I don't make opinion on fiscal policy of a town.
Oh, we just
I
said
answer
it probably
questions
wouldn't
that
be
are
good fiscal
legal.
practice, so I was just wondering what your thoughts would be in regards to why it wouldn't be.
Why it wouldn't be?
Yes.
My experience has been that it has an impact on bond ratings if you're giving free cash back to people. It's generally recognized, and I've heard it over the course of a long period of time, that if you're spending free cash on recurring expenses, you're creating a potential fiscal problem for the town. Maybe not in that one fiscal year, but in the next fiscal year, if you pay salaries and expenses and things like that. Certainly, the town could decide to give credit off or fail to make a increase in the water rates or sewer rates or things like that if that's what we chose to do. But it needs to be studied by a financial expert to determine whether that's in a fiscal best interest of the town. It's not a legal question.
All right, I appreciate that. Attorney Galvin, thank you.
And then, Mr. Kelly, so to go along with what town council said, so free cash, it's always been the policy here, even when I was a selectman, to use free cash on one-time expenses so that you're not growing the budget. So if you don't have the free cash to do that, then you would have to go back to the taxpayers through, borrowing to buy those things. When you look at what the people are requesting, I'm getting requests in right now for, a lawnmower for the DPW that was, Sean, $210,000? A $210,000 lawnmower, that we're gonna have to borrow for that, but, the small lawnmowers that are 10 and 20,000, we pay for with free cash. For vehicles, for various departments, we use free cash for, including the DPW uses their free cash, which is out of their retained earnings, to buy vehicles, to buy dump trucks, to buy plow hookups. So, that's what the money's used for. We don't add positions with that. And I want to be clear, in the budget, town meeting did authorize for the clinician, only because the clinician is right now being funded with a grant, and the grant's going to expire before the end of the fiscal year, and we didn't want to lose that person. So she'll come on, and then her salary's built in to the FY '26 budget.
I mean, when you say you don't want to grow the budget, but I mean, if you look at, just going off what you have right now for this fiscal year, the revenue is 115,404,910, and then the expense is 115,406,710. So
Balanced budget.
yeah, but you're spending every dollar that's coming in, it looks like. Wouldn't I be correct about that?
That is correct.
Right, so the whole thing is that, here's what I'm hearing for a few people, I don't know about you, Lynn, as well, but especially this year's assessments, people's assessments have gone up, so my understanding is that in order to, and please correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but my understanding is if we control our spending on the budget, it would give ease to the assessments that have been laid upon the people as well. Would I be correct or wrong about that?
Well, so, a couple of things. First off, the cost per thousand went down, so we probably have one of the lowest tax rates in our area. What you're talking about, if you wanted to slow the budget, remember, is made up of about 80% salary, so you're talking layoffs. So where would you like the cuts to come? Would you like them to cut in the police, the fire, DPW?
Well, I don't know. See, that was something I was going to be asking Treasurer Strobel, is that this week, I would like to sit down with them and go through it and get a better, more understanding of the budget. I'm not looking for cuts. I don't think anybody is, but the whole thing is that.
But that's how, in order
well,
to slow it up, that's what.
Well, look, Mike, we could use the terms of cuts and all that to play word games here. I'm sure that there is other ways of going about it, that wouldn't say that you'd have to cut anybody, but maybe scale back on some things that maybe could hold not as pressing at the moment. That would be my opinion, but like I said, without me having full understanding of the budget, what we're spending the money on and everything, that's what I got to get myself to speed on in regards to and all that when time allows me. So that was free cash, retained earnings. What's the retained earnings end of it?
Retained earnings, that is the DPW account. I'll let Treasurer, he's much more familiar with retained earnings.
I'd actually have next.
Okay, Meg. Come on up, Meg, introduce yourself.
Meg LeMay, Town Accountant. So retained earnings and free cash tend to function the same way, which is basically we appropriate, or any budget season starts with a projection of where we think revenues will come in. So we have our revenue projections, and the budgets are built based on the revenue projections, again, to have a balanced budget. So when you're going through the free cash or retained earnings process, it's without, the short version would be, it's your undesignated fund balance less your receivables plus your deferred. To break it down even more, it's basically whatever you have for your revenues that you collected in excess of your projections and your expenditures that you didn't, your budget lines that you didn't use completely. So it's surplus revenues and leftover appropriations. That closes out to your undesignated, and that becomes the basis for free cash. And so like if you carried if you didn't spend all your free cash from the previous year, that's residing in your undesignated fund balance.
All right. And then you discussed the fully self-funded pension with a 10% increase in pension expenses. So I'm trying to understand that part. So it should be fully self-funded within a certain period of time, but you're expecting an increase of 10%. I mean, is that common, or what am I?
It is right now, Mr. Kelly, because originally Plymouth County was going to be the first county to fully fund their pension program. In order to do that, they had accelerated payments in order to do that, and they were on track to be done in 2029. They extended it out by 3 more years, so it's 2032 is when they're going to be fully funded. That's sort of in line with where the state is. The county, which is separate from the state retirement, they had to extend that out to make it more palatable for some of the smaller communities in Plymouth County to make those payments. You know, as we articulated, it was like over $1 million additional cost to cover the pension. So those smaller communities were, it's based on how many people you have in the retired system. So we're a pretty big community, so we have many more people in retirement. So that's what drives that number.
Well, on the right, it drives the number because correct me if I'm understanding this right. So it comes down to how many years of service you have within the town or the government, right?
It's based on service. It's based on age. Yes.
And like, what is it? The last 3 years of your top grossing
It's your high
wages?
3. Yeah, it's your high 3.
Yeah, your top 3 years.
If you want to get 80%, it's your high 3. If you check off the box, if you have a spouse, then it's 60%.
Now, the whole thing is that you say it's 80% of what you're supposed to get, 80% of
Your salary, your top 3.
yeah. So I mean,
Average of your top 3.
right. So if you have somebody that's at a top salary, they're going to get 80% of that. So the whole thing is that where the pension, you hear from different people saying certain states have pension issues, and now you're saying that we were supposed to be good until, I think, fully funded in 29, but now they're going to push it out to like 2031, 32 because of expenses. I mean, is there a way of trying to rein that expense in? I mean, do you think there should be a cap of how much people can get for a pension?
I'm not really qualified to answer that question. But in the theory, what you're saying is that you would want to cap people's salary, so, we wouldn't be doing collective bargaining. People would be capped at no increases. I mean, that's the only way, because it's an average, it's a 3-year average of the 3 highest years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the whole thing is that comes down to what the cap is, I guess I would say, But I mean, let's put it this way. Even if you're a town employee, a government employee, this is still costing you money. So I would just look at it that even if you were to, say, put some reasonable cap on it, I mean, it'd be a win-win all around the board, I think, for everybody, no matter what, in my opinion. The schools budget, as I think everybody's attention for the most part, which according to your pie chart here is half the town's budget. So,
Slightly higher, it's about 56%.
okay, yes. So have we had any discussions with the schools and what they're trying to do to rein this cost in? I mean, I keep hearing from time to time that they're down 900 students from a certain point years ago, but they keep increasing the budget for whatever reason. So have we had discussion with the schools in regards to what they're doing on their end? Because, I mean, people are scratching their heads saying there's a falling student enrollment, but their budget keeps ballooning up for some reason.
Their enrollment's down at least a few hundred over the last 4 or 5 years. Class size, I think the class at the high school is like 3-something. Then they get one more class at 3, and then they jump down to like 280. And then a few years later, they start to climb back up. So there is ebb and flow. I mean, the problem, they're no different than general government side, is that 80% of their budget is salary. And they've just gone through like we did. They went through collective bargaining. They were able to settle. We were fortunate to have no strikes because that would cost a lot of money. And they have not settled with the paraprofessionals and somebody else. They told me, so that's the one last piece of the contract that they have to do. Sean and I have had a couple of meetings with the new superintendent. Business manager, Tom's been here for a long time, knows the budget inside and out. Their costs keep going up, the cost to educate, the cost for software, bus transportation. Transportation got so expensive that we were one of the last towns to implement a bus fee. So, they're trying. I'm certainly not an expert in their finances. I don't get involved in day-to-day. Actually, under the Ed Reform Act of 1993, we have no right to tell them how to spend the money. We just decide what we're going to give them.
Correct.
They take that money. But they're good stewards. They're doing, I'm assuming, they're doing what needs to be done. They look at everything every single year. I can tell you, I don't want to stray too far because this is really about the budget year that we're in, but in their new budget, the number that, we're going to roll out there's probably, they're looking for at least $1 million more than that.
I think
they've got
every
to-
year it runs $1 million.
So they've got
every
to,
month, yes.
but, they've got to make, I'm not going to speak for them, but they're going to go back and retool what that number is and try to live within what they can do. They get other grants, they get circuit breaker, there's a lot of other funds that come in that are not part of the general government side, but they're part of the school side. And that's what goes into making their revenue, and that's how they can make the numbers work.
Yes, because, I mean, that's the one thing I think I've asked before, is because they have a budget of over $57 million. And to my understanding, what you said, it was like 50%. So if I'm correct,
57,702,307.
I appreciate that, Mike. So the whole thing is that budget incorporating what they get for state aid, like when they issue the state aid, like in June or whatever, like that?
That's their
15.
chapter. Is chapter 70 in that, Sean?
Chapter 7 is revenue.
Is revenue.
Chapters, yeah, I think they call it a cherry sheet or something like that.
Yeah, the cherry sheet assessment, that's actually on the revenue side, not the expense side, but that helps to offset their expenses, and that number is arrived at by DESI. So DESI makes a calculation based off of the annual reporting, and that's how that cherry sheet or that formula is arrived at as far as the state aid offsets.
All right, so you already have that incorporated into the budget, what you're roughly gonna get from the state
Yes.
into this. So it's not like it's something that just comes up every year.
No, typically the increase is around 2.5%. That's usually the run rate. But again, it all goes back to what the state approves or whatever with the calculation that they use towards their budgeting cycle. So that's not typically approved, I would say, not until July or May.
So how it works is the governor's budget will come out on the third Tuesday. Then the budget goes to the House. The House discards the governors. They have their own budget writers. They write their own budget with their own priorities. Local aid changes a little. Sometimes we get more, sometimes we get less. Then they do, the House budget, believe it or not, is when we have our town meeting. It's always that same week. Then, once the House version's through, then it goes to the Senate. They put aside the House, they do the Senate. They may increase local aid because they have a better look financially of where the money is, you know, how much money's come into the state coffers, et cetera, so they can adjust up or down. When the Senate's through with it, then the House and Senate version of the budget are totally different. They appoint a conference committee. It's usually the chair of Ways and Means on both branches, on both sides, House and Senate, vice chair of Ways and Means on both sides, ranking Republican on both sides. Those 6 individuals decide the budget that the 200 members were debating. That usually, they're supposed to have a budget in place by July 1. I think last year was the first time in a long time it was fairly close. It was sometime in July, but it's gone as long as October. And they can do that because they just keep doing either 1/12 or 1/24s.
And, what was it, I just had it in my head here. So, the state aid, what was it? You know something? Scratch that. Went right through my, right off the thing. On the Mass Police Accreditation Commission, according to what you wrote here, that's a voluntary program?
The post isn't, it's mandatory. Post
So
is
what is
mandatory.
the Mass Police Accreditation Commission?
That is, I believe, and I'd have to defer, the chief's not here, but that is the company that is an organization which sets requirements to be in compliance with post.
So, I mean, it says strictly voluntary, so it's an option to be in that?
You could do it on your own, or you could use them as a guide,
Okay, and,
because the post requirements are set by law.
okay, because the reason I ask, Mike, is I believe last town meeting, we had a budget line item for $300,000, I think, on this, would I be correct?
You're correct, but it was so in order for the officers, they have to take courses, they have to do training. When they're doing the training, they can't be on the road, so we have to pay overtime. So a small portion of the money pays for the courses and the instructional materials. The bulk of it's really to offset the OT to cover when they have to come in and take the courses.
All right, so it's not for the accreditation commission itself?
It's not for,
it's
no, the money
cover-
doesn't go
it's
to
the
that.
cover for the training
That is
and
correct.
everything else that goes along with
Yep,
this?
that is correct,
Okay,
yep.
all right. And in the session with USACE that you have planning coming up, is that going to be,
That's the Army Corps of Engineers,
Yes.
that stands for. Yeah.
because you know, I caught myself in using the short term.
I know you always say, can you spell out what they're, and as I went through it, I tried to do it for you, yeah.
There were a lot of acronyms in
No, there's no doubt about that. So, I think you said it's coming up in February, March. Is that,
Yes.
is that going to be like in front of a select board? How are we going to lay that?
No, those are private, those are just day-to-day operation, they'll come in, it's been an ongoing, which one are you referring to? We got a couple going with the Army
I
Corps.
don't know. When you were
One-
going through your
I think
report,
the jetty realignment.
Okay, so
is
the
probably-
jetty realignment,
I
so
think you-
that's an interesting project.
Yes.
In order for us, we were very fortunate because it come under 10 million. If it was over 10 million, then Congress would actually have to vote on it on the congressional floor to do the authorization. So because it's under that, they were able to advance. So the jetty coming out of the harbor, one side's longer than the other, which causes the buildup inside the mouth going out, which creates the hazard, then we have to get the Caratuck. Finally, after about 10 or 12 years of back and forth meetings with the Army Corps, they've agreed to work with the town to straighten out the jetty. And both jetties actually have to be repaired because if you're there at low tide, you'll see where the blocks of granite or stone are probably about as big as this desk and weigh anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 pounds each. Somehow, the waves move them, and there are some gapping holes, so they're gonna repair it and straighten it. And we're still there's no defined time. Once we get to there'll be public meetings, once we get to a point where the project's advancing, This is really the beginning, what needs to be done, what type of empirical data do they need, things like that.
So you will, before anything happens, you will have public meetings.
Well, there will be
As
the
well as
Army-
hopefully presented to the board, so you can get other thoughts and opinions
Yeah,
on it.
the Army Corps makes the decisions, we don't make the decisions, unfortunately, that's a,
Well, they can make decisions, but I think they would like to have feedback in case there's concerns at the local level.
yep,
right?
any type of major program has, public comment.
Okay. What's the question on this one? Is the grant for the new bus. So that was through GATRA, if I remember correctly, right?
Well, so that's the new bus. So Carol has a grant in to get money from GATRA for a new bus. I think what, Mr. Gettin, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're referring to either ARPA or CARES Act money that bought them a bus during the height of COVID to take people to and from shopping centers, CVS.
Look at
Moscow
the
Drive.
council age right now. I know you mentioned that there was a grant for a new bus already. I received grant award notification for a new bus through GATRA.
Yep. So that's an application process that Carol went through with GATRA to just a new bus, not a new line. So just an improved bus, probably, hopefully with better fuel economy and less pollution.
So has she received that yet?
I know she went through the process. We don't get that bus, we don't own that bus. GATRA operates the bus for us.
So they do the maintenance and
Yes.
and all that on it?
That is, we just have to provide the drivers.
So in other words, what you're saying is that, all right, so who's applying for the grant then if GATRA's the operator of it?
Well, they operate.
GATRA going through the grant or is Carol doing the grant?
Carol does the grant through GATRA. She applies to GATRA to get the grant for the bus, but they own the bus. We operate it, they own it.
All right.
I can
That's
double
gonna
check.
ask that, that's gonna
Yeah,
have to
I'll-
require further
Yeah.
questions in the
Yeah,
future on
yeah,
that one,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I'll ask her what that is.
Yeah,
A little more specificity for you.
let's see. And then it says commitment to the schools 3% a year in regards to, I think the comments and everything was from Treasurer Strobel. So is that 3% increase onto the budget?
That is correct.
Am I understanding?
Yep.
All right. And then the pump station, when you were talking about that, a 500-year flood that was based on regards to all the work you've done on it. I'm just trying to think, as I drive by it, what is the elevation of the pump station versus the, where the
I could,
the sewage, the treatment plant is?
I wouldn't be qualified to answer that for you, unfortunately, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering, like, we're spending all this money down there, but I'm like, well, the pump station would mean nothing if we had that 500-year flood and the treatment plant is knocked out of condition because we got impacted by.
Well, that is, you and I agree, because I've been asking the DPW to come up with a plan to put a moat, put some kind of waterproof wall with submarine doors to keep that from getting inundated if the harbor or the ocean flooded high enough. Yes, you're correct, that would be a serious problem for 4,500 people that have sewer. They wouldn't be able to flush their toilets.
Eric, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So we've had this conversation because it is a critical issue for the town
Yes.
of Marshfield. So you asked about flood elevations,
Yeah.
and our building commissioner and flood is
Right,
here.
yep.
So do you want to ask him a specific question
Well, if he
in
knows.
regards to that?
He's there and he
I'm
knows.
guessing he may know, but it's up to you.
No, if he's
Include
got
him.
the information.
Okay.
Hey,
Andrew, would you introduce yourself for the record?
Sure, Andrew Stewart, Commissioner, Floodplain Administrator. What's the question about the elevation, Mr. Kelly?
So we're doing all this work down where the pump station is down on Plymouth Ave. And so, in the comments on what we have in front of us, we're talking about the 500-year flood. So let's say we had the 500-year flood. what is the elevation difference between where that pump station is and where the treatment plant is? Because I'm just trying to figure, we're spending all this money down here, millions and millions of dollars at the pump station, but I'm like, well, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know how much the elevation difference is, but I mean, if the treatment plant goes
Sure.
out, then there's really nothing you can do about it. You know,
Right.
the pump station would be moot at that point, so,
So I can explain that.
sure.
So the flood zone that the pump station is in an AE9 flood zone. I believe that the flood station or the flood zone that surrounds the treatment plant is at AE10, okay? That means that at elevation 10 above sea level, anything above that is out of the 100-year floodplain, okay? And that is what our sewage treatment facility is outside of that floodplain.
So is it out of the 500-year?
That I'm not aware of, specifically on the elevation of the treatment plant, but on the pump station itself, the ground around it is at elevation 4.9. The 100-year flood elevation is at AE 9, so we're a little over 4 feet below that, the ground is below that elevation, but this structure is being flood-proofed to elevation 13.
Yes.
So you're getting an additional several feet of flood protection there. So even if the flood zone changes, which FEMA has the tendency to change these flood zones every several years. So let's say all of a sudden they say it's an AE 10 now instead of an AE 9. We will still have 3 feet of flood protection on that structure, regardless of any map changes. But the actual physical elevation of the sewage treatment plant is higher than that pump station. We're pumping sewage up to the treatment plant. That's what that is all about right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is that you pump it up because the ground level in many of those areas, but the treatment plant, the pump station is actually, like you said, it's been elevated, 13 feet more above the ground?
Well, the walls have been flood-proofed. It's called dry flood
Yep.
proofing. So they've reinforced the walls with a concrete barrier that goes around the existing structure and the addition to it. And then these deployable flood barriers get put out in front of any of the doors before we're expecting any kind of storm or flood. So that's what that is. It's not that we've elevated the existing structure, it's that we've dry flood proofed it. It was already elevated on a big mound there on that property. We've just now doing additions, a substantial improvement to that structure to protect it from these flood events.
Yeah, so you're saying it's already been elevated well above what the ground, I'd imagine what some houses are.
Well, I mean, you can see.
Yeah,
when you
no,
drive
I've
past
driven
there,
by
it's
it,
on a big
yeah.
hill, right? And beneath that is a huge pump, a huge facility that goes about 26 feet underground. From that point, it's about 35 feet underground from the top of the hill. So the majority of the works is all underground, but everything from that bit, from 30 feet underground all the way up to 13 feet above ground is impervious to water and is protecting all of the workings in order to successfully pump our sewage to the treatment facility.
Yeah, I mean, I would be hoping on that. That's why I was just trying to figure out, like I said, I was just wondering what, between the elevation of that, but like you said, everything's underneath, most of the inner workings of it are underneath the building, so you're just elevating the building to prevent water from getting inside the 500-year flood is what you're saying.
That's correct. Yeah, it's elevated to a point so that when you're standing in there, the walls are 4 feet up high and water can't get through there. And that is several feet higher than even it's a foot higher than what the federal government mandates that we have to do in order to receive funds from the federal government to do this project, which we did. So
Right.
we've gone above and beyond what the federal government requires of us.
But either way, the transfer station is still at a higher elevation than the pump station itself on the overall picture.
That's correct.
All right,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Andrew. And then I just have one more question. Debt declines. So we're obviously, according to the chart here, we're on a decline with that debt that we have scheduled right now, but like was mentioned, that if we add to it, say, potential South Shore VOTEC vote or a roof for the Martinson or something like that, that we will add on, we will extend that debt out more years.
That is correct. There would be excluded debt, because those would be potentially excluded debt.
Right. I mean, when I was looking at, like Lynn brought up on it, I was looking at the chart, and I was like, even though it's probably what are we looking at, 10 years out from the mark that Lynn said, about 2035, 2036, 33 actually, yeah, thank you, Lynn. That'd be a significant drop-off and probably a big help to the town as well as the taxpayers and ratepayers at the end of the day, right? So I would like to think that we would do everything we could to control our expenses and not get ourselves into any more debt if it was possible going forward. So, but other than that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Eric brought up some good points, and I think I brought up some questions as well. So I'll individually probably reach out. We'll have a meeting perhaps with the treasurer and accountant and Eric as well. And perhaps you'd like to reach out to the Board of Public Works to maybe delve into their.
Oh, no, I think
complaint, or you're all good? Okay.
Andrew is there.
Well, thank
well
you
enough.
to Andrew, and thank you to Bob for participating in that, and of course, our treasurer and accountant. So the time is currently 9:01. Do we have any other members here of the public that are on our agenda for this evening? Okay. In that case, unless you need to take a short recess, we'll get right to it. Are you good, Eric?
Did you want to take a recess or not?
I'm good.
You good?
Michael, you
Now,
good?
let's just go through it.
Yep, okay.
I think everything.
Okay. So, we're here, and as I said, sorry, I'm going to be coughing, I think, 9:02, and we're going to work on our action items. Discussion item number 1 is a discussion and vote to open and close. So we're going to open February 18, 2025, and close February 28, 2025, the special town meeting warrant, and I will read that into the record. Notice of opening and closing of special town meeting warrant. In accordance with Article 2-4 of the Marshfield Town Charter, notice is hereby given that the warrant for the Town of Marshfield special town meeting of April 28, 2025, shall open for submission of warrant articles on Monday, February 18, 2025. Articles should be submitted to the Select Board office. The special town meeting warrant will close on Friday, February 28, 2025 at 12:30. Special town meeting will be held on Monday, April 28, 2025 in the Marshfield High School auditorium or gymnasium at 7 p.m. Select Board Lynn Fidler, Steve Darcy, Eric Kelly. Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I don't think there's any reason to.
Okay, very good. So I'd like to make a motion. The board moves to approve the opening of the special town meeting warrant for April 28th, 2025. The warrant shall open for submission of warrant articles on Monday, February 18th, 2025, and close on Friday, February 28th, 2025 at 12:30 p.m. Articles should be submitted to the Select Board office. The special town meeting will be held on Monday, April 28th, 2025, in the Marshfield High School auditorium and/or gymnasium at 7 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-0.
Thank you. Item number 2, the discussion and vote on seasonal population estimate. So we received a notice from our town clerk, and we're looking at 45 to 47,000 people here, estimating in the summer in the population. And she said the population count of Marshfield hovers at 30,300. And the recent growth in rental units and actual population is most probably in the 32,000 person range at a minimum. Standard calculations over the last 20 years is that persons returning from their winter homes vacationers swell the population during the summer months by approximately 17,000, and that's how she came up with that number. So we have Commonwealth of Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission dictates that we provide this, and this is a seasonal population increase estimation form. And this is for the calendar year 2025. And the number is an estimated that the temporary increased resident population is, as I said, 47,000. Sorry, everybody, I'm coughing, but it is what it is. Any questions or comments, Eric?
I do have I guess, a combination of both. So it's to my understanding, reading the law, that from the ABCC, that this is they base it on the population because that's how many, I think, alcohol licenses you can
Seasonal.
Yes.
have, I guess, in your community, right?
So alcohol licenses are based on, town council's here, but I believe it's license for every 5,000 people.
I think you're correct about that.
Because we're, if I may.
Yeah, please do.
Because we're a seasonal and we have that influx, we're allowed to have seasonal licenses. And the seasonal licenses go from April 1st, I think, to January 15th, both pouring and package. So you can have a seasonal license. Some restaurants have seasonal licenses. For instance, Don Bravo had a seasonal license. And when they had to stop serving their alcohol, they would use malt to make their cocktails. So we have the seasonal licenses, which helps out the businesses and the package stores. Because we're a seasonal community, we have that influx of people coming in here under the state regulations. As long as we certify, the clerk works with the police chief, they come up with what the numbers are, and we send that form in to be in compliance before the seasonal time begins.
Yes, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but that's like that's the one thing I was thinking about, is going back to say, was it Don Bravo you said it was? And I think, was it Jackson's was another one? I think?
Yeah,
And-
there's a few of them, yes.
There's a restaurant. and one-
Yeah, but the whole thing is that they can only sell liquor or alcohol at a certain, from,
So it depends which ones they could have a malt and wine, or they could have an all alcohol, and they're seasonal, those can be seasonal.
yeah, so I mean, I just look at that, how can I put this? So we're gonna be handing out seasonal, but then over time, we're gonna be looking towards to add them to the yearly, I guess, license at some point. Would I be correct? Much like,
Only if there's vacancies, so there's a set amount, there's a finite amount of licenses that are all of our pouring licenses, which is why we had that bill House 5095, because if there's any economic development in our town and people want a restaurant, there is no license readily available right now, a pouring license.
yeah, no, that's the whole thing is,
Yep.
I think as much as, I think we're looking at generating between the fees of that and all that, but I think we also have an obligation to make sure we protect the current business that we have in town. And this is where my concerns are, is I do believe we have a fairly good amount of restaurants in town. I mean, if we start just allowing just the whole community, which is kind of as it is now, just be a restaurant and retail thing, I think, I just look at that, there are gonna be certain businesses in town over time that'll be impacted by it, and I do believe that, and I would like to think that many of those businesses, those people actually live in this town and everything. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say no to this, but the whole thing is that I do think that, as the licensing authority, I think we have to be wary of, in my opinion, of how many we approve, because the way I look at it is I think we have to protect what we currently have. without impacting them going further down the road.
But if I may follow up, Madam Chair, so Mr. Kelly, even the seasonal licenses are capped. So we can't get any more seasonal licenses unless, we've asked them to, I've asked for our senator and rep to refile that legislation.
Right.
Because town meeting voted, right, so for the 3 pouring and 3 package stores. So those would help because someone like Don Bravo could then put an application in and get a full liquor license, and then that would free up the license, the seasonal license that they have could help some other business.
I get what you're saying.
But I think what Eric is saying is he's not necessarily in favor of that because the existing businesses have.
He doesn't want any new ones. but-
Yeah, because it may hurt the existing bill. But I think a lot of us would have another opinion on that as well. So that's an opinion for another day, I think.
Absolutely.
So you okay to move forward?
No, we can go with it, yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to bring a motion to action item number 2, and that is that the board moves to approve the temporary seasonal resident population estimate under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 17, as amended to be 47,000 for 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fiddler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Article passes 2-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 3 is a discussion and vote on a request for permission to accept 2 donations on behalf of the Marshfield Animal Control. And this is, of course, a donation for $50, which we always appreciate wholeheartedly, to be directly deposited into the department's donation account and will go directly towards the care of the animals housed at the Marshfield Animal Shelter, cared for by the Marshfield Animal Control officers. That's a $50 check, and then a $100 check by Penny Fullen for the same reason. So, we are always appreciative. So, anything you'd like to add?
Just a big thank you.
Yep, okay. The board moves to approve on behalf of the Animal Control a donation in the amount of $50 from Jenna Bushens. These funds will be deposited into the department's donation account and will be used for the care of the animals housed at the Marshfield Animal Shelter, cared for by the Animal Control officers. The board moves to approve on behalf of the Animal Control.
Can we, Madam Chair, just
Yes,
recommend we
only
do one at a time?
individually?
yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second on the first with Jenna Bushens for $50?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fiddler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Unanimous vote, 2-0 to approve.
Okay, thank you. The board moves, secondly, to approve on behalf of Animal Control a donation in the amount of $100 from Penny Fullen. These funds will be deposited into the department's donation account and will be used for the care of the animals housed at the Marshfield Animal Shelter, cared for by the Animal Control officers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fiddler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously, 2-0.
Thank you. Number 4, discussion and vote on request for permission to accept 1 donation on behalf of the Ventress Memorial Library. Sorry, Eric, you might have to take a look at this to keep continuing.
You let me know.
Okay, this is the South of Boston Knitting Guild donated $160 to the library's gift account. The donation is made in appreciation of the library's services. And this is by Cindy McCool. It's a nice donation. Anything you'd like to add?
Just thank you.
The board moves to approve on behalf of the Ventress Memorial Library a donation in the amount of $160 to the South of Boston Knitting, from the South of Boston Knitting Guild. Funds will be deposited into the library's gift account. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fiddler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Unanimous vote, 2-0 to approve.
Okay. Number 5, discussion and vote on for permission to accept 1 donation on behalf of the Council on Aging. And this is, I'm sorry, I'm coughing everybody. I'm on the mend, though. Donor is the Wednesdays duplicate bridge group for $800. That was awfully nice. Okay. Any questions or comments? Council on Aging?
No, thank you.
Okay. Board moves to approve on behalf of the Council on Aging a donation in the amount of $800 from the Wednesday duplicate bridge group. The funds will be deposited into the COA's gift account. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Unanimous vote, 2-0 to approve.
Okay, number 6 is a broken desk. Discussion and vote on request for permission to declare surplus treasurer collector's office. This is declared as trash. You can see the photos. I think I would consider those to be, unless somebody wanted them, but I appear
They're broken.
they're broken. Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I can't tell what's wrong with them. Can it be explained what the issue is with the desks?
I can see this.
It's
This part's
broken.
hanging.
The pedestal's broken, the drawer, shelving is broken.
Okay. As I just looking at the pictures,
Yeah, it's a black.
Yeah, it's not in a good angle.
I mean, if you know what the desk looked like, what's wrong with it, yeah, you'd be able to pick
Yeah.
it up, but I don't.
Okay. The board moves to approve the request of our treasurer, Sean Strobel, to declare the broken desk in the treasurer's office as trash so that it can be properly disposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, 2-0.
You didn't offer up your name as you stayed for this whole, that's very nice of you. So, this is a discussion and vote on request for permission to declare surplus in the assessor's office.
So this is not broken, Madam Chair, so
Yes,
that's
okay.
why it would be surplus.
Okay, and it's a 5-drawer file cabinet, and it's available at the assessor's office if anyone can use it. Okay. So how long till it gets adiosed?
Well, it never gets thrown away, so under the law, if you declare it surplus, if a nonprofit wants it, they can send a letter requesting it, and
Okay,
they'll come and pick it up and take it. If not, it goes into storage
okay,
at the Alamo.
okay, thank you. Any questions?
No, I guess just to add, I guess to ask is, all right, so when it's what you're saying, I guess when it's surplus, doesn't necessarily mean that it's out of the town's hands.
Well, surplus means that somebody else can use it if no one in town government wants it.
Yeah, but if nobody else wants it, then like you said, it goes to the Alamo for
Like,
storage.
or to a nonprofit. A
Okay, it's,
nonprofit can reach out.
I mean, we never had any, I know we surplus things from time to time. Filing cabinets, this one looks like it's in good shape, and they're good, useful items. We never had any requests for any, like, we got rid of them, and then somebody needed a file cabinet, we had to buy a new one or something, right?
No, that's why I put them over in the Alamo.
Okay,
The
all
Alamo
right.
is pretty, I mean, the problem is most of the stuff's old, rusted, and,
There is a point where we're gonna have.
there is a
to-
point where we'll have a big yard sale.
Okay.
That's a good point. So the board moves to approve the request of the assessor and Reason to declare the 5-drawer cabinet in their office as surplus. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly? Motion carries.
Did you say it?
No, I didn't. I jumped the
Come
gun.
on.
Aye.
I gotcha.
Okay.
I may be coughing, but I'm not a
Motion,
child.
motion passed 2-0. Must be hungry.
Yeah, it's getting late. Okay, so finally, we are at the action item number 8, and this is to approve The minutes of December 6th, 2024, December 16th, 2024, December 23rd, 2024, and December 30th, 2024. Do I have a second?
December 6th, was that the executive session meeting?
Kate, do you know if that was the executive session?
That was a Friday.
So that had to be that was when I couldn't get onto the Zoom with. So I don't have those minutes, but the other thing as well is that I wasn't there, so I can't approve them. That was between you and Steve.
Okay, so why don't we
Take that
we'll
one
take
out.
that off for the next agenda, please, Kate? And I'll make another motion for the board to move to approve the meeting minutes of December 16th, 2024, December 23rd, 2024, and December 30th, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
All right.
Motion as amended, approved 2-0.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further items, actually, 2 seconds, I take that back. Just want to make sure we look at the reminder in future agenda. So, the town meeting warrant is open. And it closes on January 27th, which is a Monday. We have the special election on January 25th, 2025, which is a Saturday. Then we have the special town meeting warrant opening on February 18th, which is a Monday, 2025, obviously. The special town meeting warrant closes on Monday, February 28th, 2025. The warrants will be available Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. The joint meeting with the advisory board is presently scheduled for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, time to be determined. And of course, we have our annual town meeting Monday, April 28th, 2025. And local election is Saturday, May 3rd, 2025. And for our next meeting, we'll talk about the select board dates, because that was also included in our binder, so we have that as well. But other than that, seeing no further items on the agenda, the board moves to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, sir.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Roll call is in order. Ms. Fidler?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Unanimous vote, 2-0, to adjourn the select board meeting for Monday, January 13th, 2025.
Okay, the time